And we should be live. So, hey everyone, and welcome back to the latest community discussion stream, I guess is what we're calling them. So, most of you guys should know the four of us. Obviously, I'm Chaps. We've got Neon, he's been on the past couple streams. Pete, or TheRazoredEdge, Coalition, or TCA Program partner, as well as been doing YouTube and Twitch for a while now. And then from the Coalition itself, we've got Dana. So, welcome guys, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. You do have a spelling mistake on my name.
Oh no!
There's no I before the O.
Oh, I will fix that in post. So Jess made a wonderful overlay and everything, and then I asked for one that I could edit the names of myself, and my guess is I put a typo in when I was typing in the names. It's probably not Jess's fault.
It is I'm sure it's not. It is a typo that I would like to say that's the first time that someone has put an I there, but people do. There's also a lot of Steve. People like my name like Scissors, so I get an SC a lot as well. But anyway, that's not why we're not here to discuss the many ways you can spell Dana's name wrong.
All right. So today the discussion or the topic is the community, both the community team at the Coalition and just us, the community as a whole. And I thought the best way to
we lost one.
We lost Neon.
We lost me.
He's coming back in. We'll get that fixed in a minute. It just shuffled everything around. Great start. So the way I wanted to kick things off and get everyone grounded was I was going to have Dana talk a little bit about what the community team at the Coalition actually does. So Dana, you want to get people a little grounded? What do you guys do? How big's the team? What are some of your responsibilities?
My team really, in a nutshell, is about advocacy. So the way that me and then everyone that works on my team is, we are the voice of the community into the studio, and then we are the voice of the studio into the community. And it's a balance, right? Because we have to advocate for you guys into the studio, so people that understand what's important to you, what's important to like just what are your priorities, like, and the funny thing is, and that's even, and we can talk about this a little bit more, but that's even trickier because there are PvE players and there's PvP players, and their priorities are sometimes like not always aligned.
Yeah.
And then there are people that are like, oh, I'm a Gears 1 fan, so this is my priority, or I'm a Gears 4 fan, so this is my priority. So like that advocacy becomes really tricky, so we have to balance, like, I mean, you guys are huge Gears fans, and like one of the great things about Gears is that like the weapon tuning from every game and the movement is different from game to game to game. So when you go and everybody has their particular like favorites about this or their characters. So when you're going and we're trying to advocate for the community as a whole, at the same time, like there's like the Gears 2 fan and the Gears 3 fan or the Gears 4 fan or the Judgment fan, these people all come with I wish it was like this. So that's kind of part of it. And then the other side is, so we take all that feedback and we relay it into the studio, and then we take everything that the decisions are being made from the studio, and then our job is to then go and make sure that we're communicating that out to you. And so that's kind of at a high level. Now, as part of that process, there's a bunch of stuff that happens. So, I'm in probably 4 to 5 hours of meetings a day of where we're going through and we're talking about everything from, content that is being worked on, like for future operations, for planning for future operations, to working on what's going to be in the store for the next week, or an event that we want to do from next week or like 2 weeks out, or to working with our creative services team, who does an amazing job at having to support 3 titles, planning for future big content about, stuff that's coming out down the road, to kind of the week-to-week content. So like there's a whole range of stuff from that part of it all to all the writing that happens on that level. Customer support, which I know will be something that Neon's going to want to touch on a little bit. But I mean, So, and I can talk, and I can go into more detail on that. So, customer support is part of my team, and then obviously all the social channels, and then as part of all of that, we also then need to be in the forums, and we need to be on Reddit, and we need to be kind of everywhere, right? And answering questions and fielding questions and managing all of from that level. So there's a lot that goes on, and then those meetings are like me meeting with like designers. So if I'm in a meeting with Michael Shannon, he's saying like, I want to go and do this. So he's coming up with his design, and then I then go and I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, why is that important? And then I can deconstruct that. And then if I'm meeting with like Jamie or Jote or someone like that, then we're sitting down and I'm going like, hey guys, I'm hearing X, right? Like, a good example, like I'll give a real world example of something that I've kicked off, like the diamond skins, right? I'm like, so I sent it to our director. I'm like, hey, the diamond skins are a little dull compared to the brilliance of Gears 4. Is there something that we can do about that? He's like, yeah, you're right. We could let's see about making these better. So now there's this whole like investigation on kind of what would be a timeline? What is the work required to do this? Now, will it happen? I don't know. That's like a very small example of something. And then if you could think about that repeated a gazillion times over specific feedback, small and big, around kind of what we're working on.
Yeah.
So that's, and then there's more, but and then let's take into consideration all the writing, right? So then there's like the what's up and this week in Gears and everything. And then, so my team, so I've got right now, I have a guy named Tyrus, TC Tyrus. I'm going to give all of their Octus equivalent names.
Yeah.
So I've got TC Tyrus, who is based in Mexico City, and he's rad. And he is responsible for the Gears LATAM account, and he really works with, you guys all know how passionate the Latin American community is for Gears. So he plays a huge role in kind of being that voice of that community into this studio, because obviously, language is an issue for us. Like, he knows the culture, he knows the language, and that really, really helps. And then I've got TC Sarah, who recently joined. She replaced, I don't like the word replaced. She came in and took the role that Andy has had previously. And she is largely responsible for customer support, as was Andy's. And she's doing a little bit on the forums as well. Because I've asked her just to make sure that she's keeping an eye on that, just especially right now in a bandwidth constrained time. And so she manages or oversees really on the customer support side. And, I'm going to get in a little bit more details on maybe why the tickets take longer than we want them to. And then there's TC Sarah, as in the planet, not as in the name. She is oversees our social media, and she's a new hire that we've had for like maybe the last couple months.
Or is that Azura?
Azura. Sorry, Sarah.
Okay.
Sorry, Azura. You see Azura. There we go. Sorry. So the name Sarah is yes. Right.
Sarah's the one who
it's all
took Andius's old job, and now
Sarah is the customer support person.
Yeah.
Azura is the social media person, and so she's responsible for managing the social media channels for Gears Pop. She's responsible for doing helping with Gears Esports. She's doing with Gears Prime. And then she's looking at Instagram, she's looking at Facebook, she's looking at Twitter, she's looking at all of those ones and then responding that and then helping make the content. So if we look at a lot of the assets that we go, she's making those where the creative services team doesn't necessarily have the bandwidth to go and do that. So the example I gave earlier was the text chat between JD, Dell, and Kate. Like that little fun about like kind of the playing off of the choice. Like that was something that that Azura was like, oh, here's a little funny thing that I'd like to do. And I was like, oh, that's great. I love that. That's awesome. So we didn't really have the bandwidth to go and do that kind of more I felt like our communications prior to her, and we're evolving out of that, were very functional. Like, do this, here's this information. And we weren't really there in the community having conversations, having dialogue.
Yeah.
And that was largely just because we were all having to go and do a bunch of stuff. And when we could plan out the communications, we did a good job at it. But when we were having to be in the moment and a little bit more fun dynamic stuff, we just didn't have the bandwidth. with Azura on now, we have that. And then the other part is I'm down like with when Octus moved back home. That was like a huge it was a big loss. Obviously, I mean, like Liam's great. He had a ton of Gears knowledge. More importantly, he had a ton of community management knowledge and community management experience. So he was someone that was able to go, and I didn't have to stress about him being in the forums or him writing this thing or whatever it is, just because he'd been around for a long, long time. Whereas right now my team's a little new, so the writing and all of that is kind of coming back onto me. So I'm doing what my job was before, and I'm doing Octus's job at the same time, or I'm trying to do the best version of Octus's job that I can. And we are in the process of trying to lock down a hire for Liam for his role, and it's we want to find the right candidate. I know that Neon, you posted on Twitter the other day about why it was really important to have someone, the community in that role, and I want to talk a little bit about that because maybe give me your perspective before I just make some assumptions.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is, and I think I speak for the overwhelming majority, is that when you have someone that has been involved for a long tenure of time within the game, that they're able to go in to get that good insight, and they know the things that when I say we, fans are requesting, and they have that trust factor, especially those that are been around the block, well known and established, whether they're big YouTubers, small people, or content or not, just general individuals on the forums, Reddit, whatever it may be, and they're able to provide that insight. And so I think that having someone that right now there's a disconnect of trust. Ultimately, I hate saying that because I don't want that to be the case, but I do feel like there is an ultimate, because of the rocky road that we had with the beginning of Gears 5 in particular, to where we are now. All the things are getting better, ultimately agreed all across the board right there. Having someone that is trustworthy, that you say, oh man, okay, yeah, TC's taking the steps of getting people that are within the community that love the franchise, that want the best for it, want it to grow, and then they get them on that community team. I think that would be helpful and transparent instead of taking a chance on someone that's not in the game, that doesn't know the franchise as well, and then bringing them in and saying, well, I'm not sure, let me go ahead and go to the next step, for example.
Yeah. I mean, like, Liam was a unicorn. Let's be honest.
Yeah, there's not many people out
100%.
there doing community roles.
Right,
that,
like-
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to find that person. Exactly.
Yeah, like it's like someone that like for me, like as a business professional, like having someone that understands how to be a community manager is like let me look at it this way. Like I could bring in so Roar was a very popular. He made a good advocacy video. People are like hire Lee, right? So and I love Roar. Like I've hung out with Roar a bunch. Like I respect a lot of what he does. His passion is certainly not, and his Gears knowledge is not to be questioned. And I think he's great. At the same time, he would be coming in, and I wouldn't have to teach him Gears, but I would have to help him understand how to be a community manager. And the challenge in that scenario would be is he would like, and I'm using he, but like this could apply to a variety of people. I'm not picking on him specifically. Is he could come in or any one of you guys, like I could hire any one of you guys in that same sort of scenario, right? And you could come in and like you guys, your knowledge of Gears is significantly way more than mine, and is probably up there with like Michael Shannon or Morava or Jote or like a lot of we do have a lot of like Gears fans in the studio. Like we have 3 or 4 people that like are from Epic. Like so we have that knowledge in the studio, right? So bringing somebody in, now they're not on the community team, I understand that. But so bringing somebody in and I have to sit down and be like, okay, cool, you get Gears. But I now need to like help you I have to teach you how to be a community manager, which is great, but I need like Liam's role was a senior type role. I can't just bring, like, for me to go and hire someone as this is their first community manager job. Like in an ideal world, we could have had a scenario where, like, Andy has left, and this is no disrespect to Sarah, so I think she's great. Andius would have left. Let's say, Lee was living in Vancouver, right? Then it would have been, hey, you know what? That's a perfect spot for me to transition that person in as kind of an entry level, more of a junior position on the community team. Then they can kind of grow into that role.
So that was kind of my question: is why didn't you do that? Is it just relocation and stuff? Is the junior levels needed to be local?
I mean, long story short, there are two types of roles, more or less, inside of the studio, and there's a full-time role, which is like what I have, and then we have contractor roles. Yep. And if you're a contractor, if you're a full-time role, then the power of Microsoft gets to help with relocation in terms of getting visas and all of that kind of stuff. For you kind of have to sort of do both simultaneously, right? So like Azura is from Ireland, yay Pete, and I
actually didn't know
that. But she had already got her work permit to work in Canada and was just someone that had a ton of really great social media experience. And I was like, wow, this is me actually getting someone for the right role, getting someone that has the right skill set for the right role. And so it's not that I don't want to have, like I said, in an ideal world, I would go and I would get that unicorn again. But failing that, it's a lot easier for someone to get brought up to speed on Gears than it is to replace 5, 6, 7, 8 years of community management experience. Especially gaming communities are really, I mean, I've worked on multiple franchises. Gaming communities are a challenge, full stop. And then a game like Gears, where you've got a super passionate community and a super divided community, like what we were talking about before, because of Gears 1 was the best. No, Gears 2 was the best. No, all of this stuff. To come in without that experience. Now you have the bona fides. Roar comes in and he understands the community. He understands the cliquiness of the community, but he also doesn't have the skill set. Potentially doesn't have the skill set of how do you balance that.
Well, that brings up a good point because, I mean, again, no disrespect. I don't know everybody's background, but I'm going to assume that the overwhelming majority of those people within the community have not had a, type of job or role in that type of industry, not just gaming industry, but I'm talking a full-fledged salary-based job where you're, expected to work for a good high corporation. So that immediately does have some concern there for any job when you're taking a chance. It's more or less you're taking a chance on someone like that to come in to do that role. Yeah. So would there be exceptions, whether it was at the junior role or the senior role, probably not so much the senior, but junior roles for those individuals that already have some of that experience?
Yeah,
if they're out there. And
I think for sure. Let's use outside of the community team, but let's use Jim Bob as a perfect example. Jim Bob was a pro player, right? He was based in Australia. He was a pro player, very good pro player. Had the misfortune of living in a remote region where the scene is hard to grow there just because of oceans. That's just full stop. But he kind of looked at the career span of a Gears Pro player is not, incredibly long. And I don't know his path to how he ended up being in it. Then he moved over to Vancouver. He got job permit and all that kind of stuff.
So he moved over on his own?
He moved over on his own in conjunction. I think basically it was kind of he works for the Commonwealth, or he's part of the Commonwealth. So I think getting a job permit's a little bit easier. But essentially he was kind of getting his work. I'm assuming he's getting his work permit. And while an opportunity is happening, the nice thing is QA is kind of always hiring. So it's a really that's actually a really easy, good entry point. But he was in the studio, he was being QA, but because of his talent, because of his knowledge of the game, because he worked really, really hard, he's he was largely responsible for what is the developer playlist right now, in conjunction with a bunch of other people. But that was something that he was playing with those tunings just because he knows the game so well. So there's an example of bringing somebody in that, into not in the community role, but leveraging the experience they have, and someone coming into the studio in one capacity, but actually kind of evolving what their role is into a different capacity.
Yeah. And I think the big miss on the community side, I think, is that there's complaints that are had about the game, or there's people asking questions, and then there's like a lot of the answers that are given seem to indicate that it's, oh, well, you misinterpreted that question. And I think that's something where having that fan or having that Liam is the example, like, went a really long way. It's the questions didn't seem to be misinterpreted, or it wasn't a, oh yeah, I've heard people talking about that, here's the answer. It's, yes, I've experienced that myself. I can give a more detailed answer about that.
Yeah, agreed.
There's a trick to this, and this is probably an example of why Liam was valuable as a communicator first and as a Gears person second. I think having the time to go and be in Reddit or whatever, because I think you're talking more about kind of the longer form posts. Because like answering anything with meaningful on Twitter, like Twitter I love because I love the dialogue of Twitter, but the conversation on Twitter frustrates the hell out of me because like, and there was somebody the other day on Twitter where I was like, literally like, it was Lambert Lucky or whatever his name is now. Like he was giving me a hard time and I was like, dude, like slow your roll. Like I honestly, like I've explained to you before why we're doing what we're doing about the soon, and I can't get a good answer in 280 characters around kind of what it is. Like, so I like Twitter for the immediacy of it, the dialogue aspect of it, but it's really hard to have fulsome conversations on Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a lot of quick to react, on Twitter. Yeah. You're not thinking out your whole process. You're very just quick, like, oh, I see this, let me retweet it and let me put a thought on it. And there's not always a thought process to what you're tweeting.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyways, so now to answer your question, so I feel like now in terms of misinterpreting the questions, like these ones are a bit trickier because I don't like, I'm sure we have. Like I'm sure Liam has. Like I'm sure like everybody did, right? I do think this is where the advocacy is tricky, right? Because there are times when we go and we advocate a perspective from the community into the studio and are overridden. Like or have it explained like hey, I think this is an important thing to do. And then they're going to go and be like, yeah, no, noted. However, this is the reason we're not going to do that. And sometimes we're like, okay, tomato, like, I don't agree, but like, we have to acquiesce. And this is, again, part of that, like having senior, knowing when do you have to fight and knowing when you're like, okay, this is something that the community is going to be a little unhappy about, but this isn't going to be the end of the world, right? Because you're not going to win every fight. Like you're not going to win. I'm not going to be able to walk into whomever's office, or in this case, I'm not going to jump into somebody's Teams chat and basically be able to advocate for everything. Now, I feel like we've got a lot of success, and I think if you see kind of where the game has evolved over the last few months, especially the results of that is showing off right now, is an example of where we've had where you're seeing that listening is happening and the results of that. But like there are like literally conversations I have every day, every week where I'm like, I want to do this, and they're like the diamond weapon skin is a perfect example. I know it's a pain point, but at the same time, is it one of those ones that if they come back and are like, great, Dana, that seems like an easy fix, but if they come back, they're like, great, we can do this, or we can do these two other things. Then I have to sit down and go like, okay, as much as people hate the diamonds, like aren't happy with the way the diamond skins look right now, the benefit of doing the other stuff is gonna be more.
Yeah, and so I think a big gap right now from what I see is that so there's obviously the vocal or the non-vocal majority, the people who aren't talking all the time.
Yeah.
But then if you take who is in this stream or who's in your developer streams, who's commenting to you on Twitter all the time, a lot of those are fans like us who are like the really hardcore fans, and we look at,
I know.
Yeah, and we look at those tiny details, and so a lot of the questions that come up are on those tiny details that it seems like, so Michael Shannon seems to understand a lot of them and he can go on, or Jote does, but from the community team, it seems like a lot of you guys you enjoy the game, but you're newer to the game and you might not play it as at the high level that, or like you might not see all the tiny details that we see. So it seems like some of that stuff is missed, and that's one of the biggest gaps that I see is the people that are communicating on Twitter, or like the fans that are communicating on Twitter, are the ones who are interested in those tiny details, and it doesn't seem like there's anyone at the studio who's able. Well, there's people who are able to, but not like able to and allowed to like respond to those and respond with the detailed answers that fans are looking for.
Right, and for sure. Like, and I mean, before this call started, I told you guys that if you want to get into the super detailed stuff, I'm not, like, depending what you're going to ask, like, I may not be able to give you the best possible answer. Yeah. Now, one of the things that we do know is we know how to go and ask questions. Now, in an immediate nature, like a developer stream where we don't have the ability to go and ask a question, it's a bit trickier. Now, you're also seeing the result of. So I want to bring it back to Liam for a second to answer this one specifically. There's twofold. There's the fan aspect of it, and there's also just like the bandwidth of being able to be present in the community to the extent that Liam was. And I think if we had, like, the team is operating at diminished capacity right now, and if we had that person that could live there, I think it would mitigate some of what you're saying. Now, there's still some of the details. Like when I retweeted Marava's post yesterday around the
Overwatch
the
skins
paddock.
or something. Oh no, that was
the
the major paddock thing.
Yeah, the major paddock about talking about the Groznian flag and all of this kind of stuff on there. Like, that's great, and I love that's there. And I think, you know, one of the things that we probably could do better on my team is go and make sure that we're like all those little details that are super cool and super fun, that, you know, we can celebrate those, because I didn't know that I mean, I'm not surprised that level of care and attention went into the creation of that character's design, but it's just there's a whole bunch of things that we're trying to manage, and just time to go. And this is, I'm gonna blame COVID a little bit on this one. Like, whereas before, I mean, you guys work in offices and stuff, like, the walk by a desk and ask a question is so valuable. And then to not, like, now if I want to talk to somebody, like, it is I have to go out of my way to be like, okay, I have to, it's not like, oh, I'm getting a coffee and there's Parasidian and I could be like, hey, quick question for you. Or he's like, hey, Dana, just so you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's rad. Thanks. So it just, for us, like, it's just the depth of conversation that we can have working from home is harder.
I mean, I agree with that, and I feel that pain with what I'm doing as well. So I'm glad that you brought that point up for those that don't work in an office environment, that you want, when you need answers like that, you're not able to get them as quick as you can. We use Teams now, and it's fairly difficult to get some answers unless I'm just picking up my phone and start calling people and say, hey, I need some answers now. Yeah. You mentioned bandwidth a few times, and I'm not trying to derail it, but I just want to clear it up. I've wrote it down a few times. Is what's the expectation? How many more people are coming onto the community team? Is there are you trying to get this solved before the end of the year? What's the deal there?
Yeah. So we were at a final, close to final with a candidate that it just unfortunately didn't work out. So now we've got 3 viable candidates, all who have good strengths and good weaknesses, like every good candidate does. So we're hoping to do that. The other thing that, you know, with change comes opportunity. And I think one of the things that I know that I was like, was a failing is, you know, we try to do too much. You know, the launch was rough. And I think we were trying to be so, like, just present and helpful and everything, that in trying to do much, we weren't able to do to the depth of what we want. So right now, with the new person coming on, I'm looking at the opportunity on how do we just go and, like, let's get this knocked out, okay, move on. Let's get this knocked out. And it's just, and we're just reworking it. The Trello, like, it's funny when you tweet. That's why I put the eyes when you tweeted the Trello thing the other day, because it's something we had been talking about for a while. And it was just, the only reason it didn't get done sooner was because, so Sarah is she's the one who is responsible for populating that because she lives in the world of CS, so she understands kind of ongoing issues and that kind of stuff.
So is that not
And
going to be automated at all? Like linked up to Jira at
no,
all?
it's not. So anyway, it's just getting built. We have the intention to launch it next week. The reason why we don't want to automate it is because we want to curate it slightly. Because A, we don't want to have like literally everything that we're working on. And B, it will require a bunch of tagging. So just for the people that are watching, Jira is like a project management software that a lot of software companies use as a way you can go and track items. There's conversations, so you can check things in, and there's everything from flagging bugs to designing features and so on and so forth. So the way that, for Jira for us, there are like issues, there are like the separation of classes and characters obviously there's a whole Jira epic around that, and we're like the feature set inside of that. So we don't want to go and just have it automated. So if something gets tagged wrong, all of a sudden we've announced something that like we're working on that may or may not even come to fruition, right? And then the other part of it is we want to be able to go through and not have the Jira be like just white noise of here are 500 things or 100 things or 50 things that are sort of known issues. We want to sit down and curate it in a way so that the running scared obviously was one that I was getting asked about all the time. That would be something that would be on the Trello. The disconnects are going to be on the Trello. The quick play, the limited,
the map frequency.
The map frequency on quick play is going to be on there, and then we've got like issues that are going to be resolved inside of that. So we want to make sure that it's like these are the top, like and it's going to say it right at the top. These aren't the only issues that we're working on, but here are the top issues that we're seeing. Just so what I would love is, and I know this is a pipe dream of mine, is that people will go and check the Trello before they send the tweet. And then they go like, or we can just respond with like, here's the Trello, here's the Trello, here's the Trello. Yeah. So we're going to get down there. So it's not going to be automated. It'll be updated probably on a regular cadence. I don't want to give a specific date, just if it's twice a week or if it's once a week or whatever it is. It's going to be updated as it needs to be updated. Let's keep in mind that, we do title updates, patches on a... So there's two ways the game gets updated. There's a patch, which is a client, like it's like where we actually physically change the game. Like we go and take something out and we add something to it. New characters, the new rank system, and UI, anything like that is a client change. So we go and we do that, and that requires an update. Now, there are things that are what we call CMS changes, are things that like movement, like tuning, weapon tuning changes. If we wanted to change like the gears points when we went from 2 to 1, as an example, that is something that we can do kind of on the server side. Now, so the big client updates, those are going to only happen once every 4 to 6 weeks. You guys remember from the beginning of Gears 5 when we there was a ton of issues and we were rolling them out quickly, and eventually we made the decision of like, we actually have to slow it down, because by doing all these small fixes, it's preventing us, like every time you go into CERT and into the QA, it just slows everything down, right? Because you can't have multiple things and there's backlogs. So that's kind of what we're seeing. So we want to make sure that Trello feels live. So it's going to be a balance of like, there might be a week or so where there's really not going to be that much of an update to it, because, like we have a title update coming next week, unless something happens in CERT. So we have a title update coming next week, and then the next one isn't for a while. So you're not going to see a client change unless there's like a broken, like game breaking issue that we're going to go and see on that change. But there may be tuning ones and so on and so forth. So that's kind of how that's roughly how the Trello. And then we're going to have I've looked at like the Apex one, I've looked at the Fortnite one, I've looked at the Rogue Company one, and they've all done things that are a bit different and a bit unique. And I like some of what some have done more than the other ones. So we're going to have like our patch notes. So there's like a regular record of all of our patch notes is going to be one column, links to the social channels, just kind of a one-stop shop so I can come in and understand what's going on in the game right now. Yeah. But it's not going to be news. Like we're not there going to be hyping up the next operation. Yeah. It is a largely functional of this is what's going on inside the game.
Okay.
Pete, you're being very quiet.
I know.
Yeah, Pete, is there anything you want to bring up?
I'm just you're the one with all the
No, but I mean, but like jump in and ask questions or challenge me. Like if you guys like call fucking bullshit if you want, I'm easy.
sure. Like I just don't want to feel like I'm telling you what to do, but
No. I would rather I would rather you guys at this point like be the voice, so you guys can say, "Hey, why aren't you doing this?" And I can go like, "Yeah, we've thought about that, and there's the reason why, and this is why we're not." Because I think to Chaps' point, sorry, Pete, I know I cut you off. There is that sense of like we're telling you something and you guys aren't doing it, and the frustration is there's a gap between what you're saying and what we're doing. And I think we need to kind of do this a little bit more. So in these types of conversations, I'm hoping I can do the little connective tissue. So you understand that when we're doing something, it's not because we're stupid or we're trying to piss you off. It's because like there's an intent that is being missed in this gap. So anyways, Pete, go on.
Well, when it comes to Trello, like maybe you could tie that to, say, when there's a new bug added, the Coalition Gears Twitter could tweet out that this has been added to the Trello. That gives people a reason to go there, and they know, and that way they can already know that bug is there. Like you said, you would rather people look at the Trello rather than asking you and you repeating yourself over and over again.
Yeah, I think we'll do that. What we'll see is we'll probably have a combination of it on Coalition Gears, which tends to be our more support-oriented channel. It'll be tweeted on there. If we do updates, we'll try to time it into the This Week in Gears. So there'll be probably a long-standing bullet inside of the in This Week in Gears that'll say like, "Hey,
please
don't forget to check out our Trello for this," like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but for the support page, for example, you're getting 3 to 4 months delay. I've had my own with this.
Yeah.
Is this something that you guys, or is it outsourced? And
right.
How is that exactly being handled? And how has that been in your?
That's sucked. Honestly, our support experience has been not ideal, and I want to make sure that I'm not throwing anyone under the bus in this scenario. Like, this is not for lack of effort. Like, Andius was a machine. She was closing upwards of 200 tickets a day, like going and reaching out to people and that kind of stuff. So she was a machine. So this is nothing to do with effort. This is what basically ended up happening is I don't think anybody expected Gears 5 to launch with the issues that it did. So we had a huge backlog of tickets that are coming that came into that. We had Andius, who was responsible for that. Very within not fast enough, we were able to onboard an outside vendor to help us sort of manage, basically to clear out noise, right? Like, there are a lot of tickets in there. Like, the hard part is there's a lot of tickets that are probably not support tickets. They're just venting, but you have to review every ticket, unfortunately. So, like, I will say that, like, the support site is great, and I implore everyone to use the support site, and I'm going to explain why you should. But going and being like, your Nasher is broken isn't a support ticket. Like, right. And when you submit that as a ticket, it actually prevents other tickets from getting responded to. Now, so that's just like, we hear you, we understand your feedback. However, that is not like an actual support issue. So we've got that, and then, and we didn't have like our knowledge base set up. Like, there was just some support stuff we just didn't have right at launch that made it a little bit easier. And we're getting there, and we're getting better at it. Now, in terms of the delays and responses, it's partially due to the volume. There's a lot of like outstanding tickets where we submit an answer back, like a question back to somebody, and they don't ever respond. So we kind of can't close those tickets. So they're sitting there. So there's a lot of this kind of like clutter that we're having to manage it a little bit. Now, in terms of getting back, we do prioritize. So in general, we prioritize people that have spent money, not because we're greedy, but because like if somebody went and bought if I walked into Target and I bought something and I walked out and I didn't have it, like I would be frustrated about that experience. So we want to make sure that like if somebody's done a transactional thing, sorry, I should change that. Not money, but like Iron or Gears coins. If someone is like initiated like some sort of like kind of like transactional process with us, that's something that like for us, like if like in a hospital, like that's like you've had a heart attack. Like we're triaging that above something else.
Yeah.
And then if it's just something of this thing like, hey, I can't do X, like, or here's this weird little small bug or whatever it is, then, and it even says when you submit a bug, you actually get an automated response that says, thanks, we're not going to talk to you again because like there isn't like, unless we need more information, we're not going to go back to you because there isn't a resolution. Like, we're not going to send an email that's like, oh, by the way, we fixed it. Like, it's just kind of like, thanks. And this is why the support site really helpful. So the reason why we say go to the support site is it allows us to then have data to be able to go to the team. So if we go there and I can go to the team and I can say, hey, we have X 100 tickets around this. This is an important issue. And they go like, oh, cool, thanks. Versus like, so like that, there's a reason why we send people to the support site is because the data actually helps action items. And plus we can feed it into the Jira. It's just, there's a process that's really, really important. Now,
well, I think now though, like when the Trello is introduced, people will see the result of, a lot of support tickets being sent into the support page because they'll actually see, you more than likely prioritize that bug and display it so people will actually see the effect of their reports.
As long as they know to go there. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then now, I recognize, like, there are people that are like, I haven't got our Op.3 rewards yet. There are people that have said, someone doesn't have their Blood Moon Imago or whatever. Like, there are going to be, like, it's not perfect. Like, we're doing our best we can, and we're trying to go and we're trying to kind of tag that. A lot of this comes down to, like, I don't want to say that it's the fault of the user, but like when you submit a ticket, be super detailed. Like kind of just being like a rant with one little comment doesn't really help. Like the more detailed it is, the faster we can go like and help you guys out because we legit care. We want to help people.
This goes back into what I've said earlier. Is it's not just a TC issue, it's also a community issue where the players and those that are giving the feedback have to be very clear and not act in emotion when they're giving the feedback. It makes it difficult for me to even understand people when they're tagging me on Twitter and the Furious forums and whatever, and I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, and I don't even work there. So how are they going to understand it?
No, like the fix your Nasher is like my favorite piece of feedback in the world. I'm like that, like what does that mean? Like literally, what does that mean? Like I understand when you say, hey, you're, I'm going to say jib because I like it. The jib range is too short. Are you guys Gibbs or Jibs? Which one are you guys?
I honestly don't know.
Gibbs.
Gib.
Okay.
I probably use them interchangeably.
So you say GIF, don't you? So
I say GIF, which is a weird thing.
Oh, you do?
Anyway.
Okay. Well, that makes no sense.
So,
there was a conversation about that on the PvE stream.
I know. Anyway, but like, I understand when you come to me and you say, the jib range is too short, or the jib range is too long, or like, I feel like that is actionable feedback that I can sit down and we can go like, hey, that helps me. Now, the design, and this is the thing that's weird though with the support site, is submitting those like design related, those like that is not a forum to submit a design request. Submitting fix your Nasher, that's not a bug. Now, if the Nasher is like legit broken, that's a bug. But like, if it, like, I would love for people to like give value, but that's what the forums are for. That's what Reddit's for.
I mean, you're looking for objective bugs, not subjective.
Yeah,
feedback.
I need to know a bug or like something that like I said, like something that didn't happen the way it was supposed to. That's what I want on the support site. You submitting design feedback is like, all it does is actually like completely gums up support works because we have to manage all of the tickets. We can't, we like, there isn't like a macro that we can just be like, oh, all design suggestions, like we can move to this folder because people don't flag them as a design suggestion.
So you say that you like people submitting like multiple of the same bug, like multiple people submitting the same bug because it can help priority in Jira and stuff. But is there a point at which, like, Paddock's running Scared Metal, for example, like, continuously telling people to go submit a support ticket for that, it just clogs up the system? Because
I don't think, in that one...
Like, I'm just wondering if there's a point at which...
That might be a failure on our side, if it was, because I think we pretty much acknowledged, like, about 2 weeks ago that we knew it was an issue, and that, yeah, a fix is coming. And we were saying that, like, a fix is coming, a fix is coming. And this is where hopefully the Trello board will help. Whereas we can just be like, yeah, we know, and just push it there. And this is the hard part. Like, it's weird, right? Because our communication channels, like, you go and we write up like a what's up, or we write like a this week in gears, and then we tweet things, and then we post. And we're like, cool. Like, I'm going to use this is probably opening a can of worms, but that's fine. I'm going to use the iron inside of the chrome steel about like moving to real world currency versus iron, right? We had said that a bunch. We had like told people from my perspective, I felt like we had really, really communicated that really well. Now it goes into the store and people are like, I'm sitting on a bunch of iron. Why don't you guys want me to, why can't I pay with iron anymore? And that's something that I was like a little surprised, because I was like, wow, I don't feel like I felt like we were being super transparent about it. Like we weren't hiding it. Like we had let people know. And it's just people miss communications. Like don't see them, not miscommunicate. Like they'll, and I think for us, it's, we can try our best, but like, even like I'll tweet out like, yeah, Railline is now working in customs. And then I'll get like a question, like 10 minutes later, someone going, what about rail alignment like in customs? And I'm like,
well, to me, the whole thing seems to be more of accounting problematic for you all, which I could be wrong with that. This is an assumption, but it appears to be more of it like it was an accounting issue for those that are in the accounting department, which would make sense, but they're not going to understand that piece of the equation, unfortunately, no matter how you phrase that or communicate it. They're not going to understand it.
Yeah.
Unless they're in accounting or they know how that works.
Yeah. And it's hard. And like, I mean, we're definitely gotten, I think our transparency has improved a lot. And we're trying to share people, but like you said, there is so much information out there that unless you're living and breathing in it, and the hard part is that we keep saying the same thing over and over again. Other people are like, "Fuck, man, stop talking about that. Like, we've heard you." and then there's like the dude who's like comes to the party late, like, "What did I miss?" And you're like, and it's like, "Oh well, read the chat." Like, it's hard. Like, and I'm not making fun of that guy. That's just life. Like, people are busy. Like, I'm like, we're all busy. Like, we miss things. Like, It's just, that's life. It's hard.
Chaps, I don't know if I'm going to interject here, but I just want to get this. I got to ask this question. It was one that was mentioned, and I just need an answer. So, you mentioned very specifically that you felt that the marketing for Operation 4 went really well.
Yep.
However, I would say the overwhelming majority of fans on our side, or like, I learned more about the game on the Monday or that Tuesday morning when the patch went live on the PC, and we were able to start looking in the game files. And then what we learned from the developer streams before, it felt like it was a little reversed, backwards, I guess would be the word. So, in your mind, what made it great?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, I think so. First of all, I think we provided a depth of information in advance of Op4 that we haven't done previously. I think going through and doing dedicated blog posts, having designers on to talk about every specific issue was something that we hadn't done before, and from my standpoint, and that went really, really well. On the other side, we have a lot of analytics tools at our disposal. So we go and we look at a variety of things, from in-game engagement to sentiment tracking across like all public communications to see kind of how people are feeling. We have sentiment targets as one of our KPIs for the game. Like, are people happy? Like, that is a target for like it's not just how much are people playing, but like, are people happy? Like, when we did the summit, there was 3 KPIs that came out of it, and one of them was a specific sentiment rating that we wanted to achieve. So so sentiment is part of that, and we track that. And
I feel people were happy with the operation and the announcement and stuff. They just, everyone was really happy with what came out of it, but most people were not thrilled with the way it was laid out ahead of time.
And I know, I know what you guys are speaking at. You're talking about, like, what is the exchange rate for this?
No,
there was some of the details.
I think one of the biggest things was that, so what maps and what characters are coming out, that was announced after your patch notes thing, for example. In the past, you guys have said, maybe a couple days before the operation, it's hey, here's the maps and the characters, and then the day of is when you put out your patch notes. That way you can include all of the information about that. And that was some stuff that was missing. Or the title update launched, and it wasn't until there was a big trailer that the PC people found and published all that stuff, which, yeah, you know about that. But that trailer wasn't actually published until like...
A load-in trailer.
No, there was the longer version is what the PC people found, and that wasn't published until like 3 days after the operation launched.
That was in my Discord so quick.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's
No, okay. Sorry, go ahead, Neon. I don't want to cut you off.
I was just going to say, to maybe clear it up a little bit more is, so that week when the note, you had the individual patch notes for each game mode going out on, I think it was a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What I think from the community perspective is we had that little small reveal trailer with Dom. You kind of knew what was happening, which was great. And then after that, I think we had a day off, and then it was 3 posts, and then each day had a developer stream, which was great. I love the fact that you all did that.
That was good.
But the problem from the optics of it, from the fan side, is we're answering some questions, but we're not going to answer a lot because you're going to know all of it on that following Monday when the patch notes went live. And then on Tuesday morning early is when I think the official trailer and all that went out. And so what I feel like from what the overwhelming majority have told me and what I even feel is what should have happened, in my opinion, and again, y'all have the metrics and the analytics. I don't. I just have the optics of it, is what should have happened is you had the patch notes go out and the big trailer go out all on one day, and then the developer streams to answer some of the concerns and questions, and then we get the title update, or you do the title update, let people get a feel for it, and then do the developer streams later in that week. That's how it optically came across. That it should have been, whereas the way that y'all did it was broken up and choppy in a way, which I understand why you did, because there was a lot of bit of information, but the optics of it was like, we're not getting answers on these streams because they know what's coming, but they don't want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's coming in just a few days.
A few things seem backwards, really.
Yeah, so we're learning, first of all. Like, was it perfect? No. Was it, I think, one of the better leading into an operations that we've done? I would say yes. So now, in terms of, the feedback, the trailer should have been released sooner, but that is a decision that is made by a whole bunch of people, and that is a scenario. And there was learnings based on that, and let's hope that we can get better at that for Operation 5. So that one for sure. In terms of because of the reason why I hear what you're saying about the depth of streams prior versus post is there was, and that was kind of why I had Alex on to kick off that week of streams, was there were so many significant changes coming to the game that we wanted to prepare people so they understood, for a couple of reasons. One, we've been saying for a long time, we're working on it. We heard you. We're working on it. And we wanted to sort of till the soil and set ourselves up for success in that environment, so people understood, so they weren't overwhelmed by because there was a lot of changes inside of the game. If we wouldn't have talked about it ahead of time and we would have done the streams after the fact, it would have just been holy crap, whether with the ranked, because we wanted to talk about ranked preseason. There was just a bunch of stuff inside of that, as well as the way that the store was being changed and the way content was being earned, everything like that. Now, we made a call, right or wrong, around some of the nuances and the details around ranked points, gears coins, the conversion, which I know I made a faux pas with my tweet, but it's fine. I owned up to that. I was like, hey, you know what? I think everyone would not argue now that the amount of gears coins you can earn in this operation is generous. You may have not got the conversion that you wanted, but right now, if you play the game a fair amount, you shouldn't ever run into an issue of running out of gears coins.
Yeah.
So you're saying
I personally felt that even I didn't even really, when that happened, I wasn't really focusing on what the conversion was, just because I noticed how, like you said, how generous it was. I just felt like I was being rewarded for my time and I could buy whatever I wanted in the store.
And that was what we wanted to do. We wanted people to feel like that content. We heard you about the FOMO, We heard you guys about the inability to earn content. We heard all of that feedback, and and you can see the results of it now. Whereas people if you're going to spend iron right now, it's because it's important for you to go and have that content before someone else. And I don't think that's unfair. The content has to be paid for. So as much as we want to reward people for playing, if you're if some people really want Paddock and it's important for them to go and buy him and have him now, or some people are you know what, that's cool. I'm going to wait the week or two that it's going to take to get him into to get him with Gears Coins.
Have you guys thought about increasing that wait? Because so far everything's been a week. You get it. So Iron gets you 1 week of exclusivity.
I would imagine it's not going to just stay always a week.
Yeah. Because
I
like that being I don't spend my iron on this stuff, but I've never purchased a cosmetic for any video game ever, so I love this. But I know a lot of people probably.
No, we want to reward people, right? Because if somebody went and people work hard, right? If somebody goes and spends their money on a piece of content, we want to make sure that person can enjoy that content with a level of exclusivity. Yeah. Now, you're seeing some of the Operation Bundle. We've recycled content from that. But again, you've had 1, 2, 3 operations of exclusivity inside of that. For some people, that's not enough of a window. For other people, that feels fair, right? Yeah. So, we're never going to, when it comes to commerce, you're never going to create a scenario by which everybody is happy.
So the purpose of Iron now is early access.
And
essentially.
And boost. And rerolls.
And boost.
Yeah. I would say that's fair. Yeah. Realistically speaking, it's funny, I think boost is this thing that people don't really talk about, but to me, if you're a hardcore player, boost is actually the thing. If I had everyone's well, what am I going to do with my iron now? I'm buy boost. Literally boost is if you play Gears a lot, boost is going to help you get coins. Boost is going to help you re-up. It's going to everything about boost is to me feels really, really valuable. So that's my perspective. But
I would.
What you guys think?
I don't think I find boost super valuable, but I did yesterday. I spent iron for the first time, and it's basically the stuff I've earned from my previous tours, and I was all right, yeah, I'll get a month of boost because I don't care about the early exclusivity from characters, so I'll spend it on some boost. And
boost has great value if you're one of those people like myself that wants to spend a lot of time in Horde and Escape and do the medal missions and try to get your experience level progression, which at the same time comes as a detriment too, because there's a balance that you guys are playing, whereas the community's playing. Because getting up just to get seriously 1.0, where you're trying to get re-up 20, takes quite some time. For example, with boots, obviously you cut that time in half. Same thing when you're doing a leveling from 1 to 18, which I ran the calculations on that of how long it would take without and with boost. Boost optically is beneficial for the player, but it's also beneficial for y'all because it drives up revenues and everything of that nature. But in terms of your re-ups and the achievements, re-ups reach re-up 40 and 30, that will take quite some time, and boost, in my opinion, is really the only way to get there if you have a job.
Yeah, no, for sure. This is something that, when we have Andy on our stream, I think we should talk a little about this because but I can give a high level answer to that, but this is something that is actually really, really, I think it's actually really interesting. It's one of those ones that people don't think about. So when you're talking about progression, so whether you're talking about progressing through the tour, you're talking about progressing up through ranked, or whatever it is, there are, there's that guy and he tags me and he finishes the operation, the tour of duty within the first day.
What, is it Chris?
Somebody finishes it in an hour or something.
Just spending money.
God.
Yeah.
You spend $200 to do that.
Hey, you know what? And the thing is, you know what? If that's your hobby, and that's important to you, have the money to spend. I'm not here to judge that at all, right? So there's people like that, and then there's people that when you're tuning a progression, whether it's the tour, the progression through the tour to general, or you're tuning kind of the re-ups. You have to balance it so that if you tune it to one way, that the people that the power levels, they burn through it so quickly. And those are the first people that are going to be coming and going, what else am I doing? I've got nothing else. It's like, well, you spent 2 days getting to where we're planning people to take 3 months to get to. So there's that. And then, but if you tune it too far the other way, where the people that take the 3 months to get to it. So if you tune to the power people, all you do is make it frustrating the people that are like, fuck, like I have a job. I don't have hours and hours to put into the game to make it through the tour.
Yeah.
You know, so that progression tuning is really, really, and like I said, Andy can speak to Chaps, you know math better than I do. Like, are you tuning to the 50th percentile? Are you tuning to the 90th percentile? Like, there's all of these kind of things that you're tuning inside of it.
And I think the tour's in a pretty good spot for that tuning right now, personally.
The tour duty's in a good spot, but let me just spit some numbers real quick, and I'm not going to try to get deep. I just want to put it in your brain just for a moment.
Yeah, for sure.
If you go from level 1, basic level 1, you just first start playing the game, and you go all the way up to re-up 50. And you're talking max level re-up 50, level 100. It's 82,071,000 cumulative total experience earned. If you were to get, let's just say, I don't know, 20,000 experience a day, I haven't calculated this, but it would take roughly, and my math could be completely off. We'll come back and fact check this one day. 4,104 days. I started running these calculations. That's just not possible. But if you do 100, like a million, it's going to take 82 days. And we can run through the math and make sure everything is right. That doesn't optically look right. Like, only have a couple hours, and you play PvP, PvP, the base rates for that are still low. So, again, I know you don't want to get in the weeds of it, but it's just something to think about.
I'm going to ask you guys, because you guys are going to know better than I do, because I'm going to plead ignorance on this one. Is the re-up progression different than 4 or 3 or 2? Is it slower? Is it? I honestly don't know.
Well, so obviously Gears 4, once you were high wings, it was super slow.
It's similar to 4.
So, yeah.
But this is, what is it? Every re-up, it adds a certain amount of XP per level now that you need to get. So when that starts compounding, it basically grows exponentially, and when you get up pretty high, I'm only re-up 11 right now, and it doesn't seem that bad. But like when you get high,
I'm re-up 19, and I can do a wave 1 to 50 on Masters, and only go up 2-3 levels at a time.
So I know that
there's not a lot.
I know that, and I do not. This is not me committing to anything. So I know that Andy has re-looked at the re-up system for in terms of rewards and everything for Op5. So I don't know if level progression is part of that, but I can certainly ask him. So I think it's a valid question. I know I hear it a lot, and I know that re-up is a weird one because it's almost like the biggest badge of honor. And I mean, it's like seriously is like here, and then re-up is kind of right below that because it shows like commitment, it shows desire, it shows skill, like it shows like all of that kind of stuff. And I think if we misjudged it, and I can talk to him about where we are.
I think it should be re-looked at for sure.
Yeah, someone just asked,
and I'm happy to pass. I'll pass it on to the team.
Like I remember for Octus left, he mentioned that he said that it should be okay for people to be max rank. Like there's no reason.
Yeah.
You know, because people want to show it off. Like I never reached max re-up in Gears 4, so I didn't have that. Yeah. I didn't have that moment of being max rank and showing it off to other people, like for the lifetime of the game, like I could in Gears 2, Gears 3, Gears Judgment. You know what I mean? Like having the wings, like to display and show off.
No, I think that's valid. Like I said, we can keep on. I don't want to sweep this under the rug, but I mean, I will certainly talk to Andy about that, and I'll kind of see where we are with, I'll see where we are with that.
Yeah. So, but I will add that it is important to have multiple progressions in the game. Like you have re-ups, you have the tour duty, all of that. Yep. Like there's multiple things to go for, and then you also have your Gears coins now to grind when you finish the tour. So there's enough to keep you busy. I just think the re-ups, the scaling of it, and the rewards are something that need to be looked at in particular.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat a little bit.
Yeah, someone asked about boost being available, or like changing boost to make it so it's only when you play rather than going in real time. And I mean, Boost would have to be a lot more expensive if it was like that.
I was going to say, like, that's one of those ones where I saw that person was on military leave, and that kind of really sucks.
Yeah.
Like, that's that's an unfortunate circumstance. Going on vacation, anything like that. We had a conversation about that because I asked Ryan that. I was like,
I mean, it would have to be a lot more expensive.
I was like, well, what about like game time? And he's like, well, okay, if you buy a day of Boost, as an example, and to take 24 hours of game time, like for someone that plays 2 hours a week, like or like 5, like, even if you're like, let's do easy math, right? If you're playing 4 hours a week, then that's like 6 weeks is 1 day's worth of game time, and at that point, like the dollars, just like you said, then if you want to have the real value of that inside of that, then our people are going to be like, TC, you're so fucking greedy. Why are you charging blah 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 for Boost? And they don't like if I'm having a one-to-one conversation with somebody, I can explain the value of math and all and that side of it, and they go, oh, okay. But I feel like in that scenario, the knee-jerk reaction would be something where people are like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And it's honestly one of those ones I don't know. I mean, because other games struggle from the same thing. Like I don't know how to make it like an elegant solution, other than is it like a slow decline? And it also becomes like feature set, right? Like if you're going and if you're not logged in, does it decay at a rate of 0.x versus like 100% decay when you're playing, or like I honestly I don't know around that path, but it does. While it's not ideal, it does. It is something that, again, this is something that Andy can speak to probably a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it is tricky.
All right. So I've got a huge list of questions that people have submitted and we've pulled together before this. So there's a couple other topics I wanted to hit on. I wanted to sort of shift gears and jump over to TCA. Probably your favorite topic right now.
Okay, TCA. So what do you want? So would you want to talk about why it's basically a partner program? Do you want to talk about how we're crappy at uploading assets? Like, where do you want to? Let's start. Like, where do you want to start, and then we can move from there.
All right. Yeah. Well, so I guess I'll start with like when TCA was. I know things have shifted now, but when TCA was first announced, it was announced as here's TCA. You have two levels. You have your member and your partner. Like partners, they get all these perks. And members, you guys get some assets, and we're going to try and help promote you guys. You guys can work your way up to the partner level. And it seems like that bottom level has basically dropped off. It's basically now just a partner program. Partners are continuing to get stuff and grow, and everyone else is kind of just left in the dust.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. And I think, basically, I had high aspirations of the partner program. It was something that was created by Adam and Liam, like before I joined, and then my understanding is it went dormant there as well.
Yep.
And then it kind of and the reason why it goes dormant is.
Hard-hitting questions.
Dana just dropped. Well, all right, Pete. Looks like he's rejoining.
I'm back.
Pete, you're muted. Pete, you're muted.
Am I muted? Hold on.
I am muted.
Okay. All right, there we go. Dana, you are back. We can still hear you, even though your camera's loading.
My Discord just totally crashed.
Nice.
Sorry. I was like...
so you weren't dodging the question.
No, I wasn't. It was like my
the ultimate dodge.
Yeah, totally. The reason is click. Okay, so it's prioritization, and it's one of those ones where if I'm going and we're trying to have like the biggest bang for the buck, and from an advocacy standpoint and all of that kind of stuff, it really works down to, as much as I love the content creators and I love the people like yourselves. Like, I love Pete. I love how much time Pete invests in the game, and I think it's great. But it's not like you two don't invest a ton of time into the game as well. Pete just has the luxury of a gazillion followers on YouTube, right? Like, and and I don't want to trivialize that because Pete worked super hard to get to that spot, right? So The program, when it first started, we started at the top because I just made a call. It's easier to kind of work with 15 people or whatever it is, and then the biggest bang, especially into Marketing Gears 5 and everything like that. And then I was going to flow down from there. Gears 5 came out and it was challenging, right? Like there was like a lot of work that was required. Like we were like the Dutch boy, right? Like we just like fingers and everything, and we were doing our best to try to really manage, to try to manage it as much as possible. And the TCA stuff was just a really easy thing to let slip. Now, I wish I had a better answer, but that's the straight up truth. And then as we were getting kind of on top of things, then then all of a sudden staffing kind of bit me in the butt, and kind of there we are now. So Sarah, who I've basically, I'm sort of chunking her world up into sprints now, and essentially she was given the Trello as like, it's like, okay, do your customer support, do your day job, and then Trello is the first thing that I want you to take on. And then the next thing for her is to go through and start updating assets and getting that into the partner folder. That is the best intention. That is our best laid plans, kind of where we are. Because to me, that feels like the area that we've had the biggest miss is really just that, like giving the assets to help people. And I feel like once we get the assets part sorted out, then we can move to the next level. Now, if it makes you feel better, I literally just got off a call with Pete and the other partners, and they were talking about how we're doing a shitty job for them as well. So,
well, I wouldn't say that. But.
No, but like, I mean, in the end, like everybody has like, has priorities, right? And for you, like, like as much as like Shadows or Krauser or Pete would love to have like a high-res PNG of an asset to make their thumbnails and all of that process easier, for sure. And we want to get down that path. But there's just lots of stuff, and this is an area that it literally was a bandwidth thing and a priority thing, and I've heard it. I hate it. We're trying to get back on it. And is it going to be great out of the gate? No. Like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. However, my hope is with Sarah getting a dedicated one as part of that, as part of her remit, and then when we get the new Liam on board, then it just becomes this kind of like, then that just sort of frees up everything. And that goes to earlier what I was talking about, is like we tried, me and my team tried to do too much out of the gate, and because of the fires, I feel like now we're sitting down and reprioritizing, and like, let's just get one thing done and move it out, and then let's get nothing done and let's move it out, rather than trying to kind of do this. It's like, no, Trello done. Now it's like TCA done, and we're gonna, and then coming out of that, then our next focus is going to be, and this is more when we get somebody back on full time, is the area that I'm most unhappy with is really our combination of Discord, forums, and Reddit. Like, we're not there enough, and that is 100% a bandwidth issue. But when we're going to go back, I'm going to sit down and we're going to have to prioritize. Like, where do we want to be? I look at the numbers. Like, it feels like there's way more people on Reddit than there is on our forums. Do we spend more time? And then, do we spend more time on Reddit, which trivializes the role of the forum, or whatever? It becomes tricky, right? Like, and then Discord. To me, I look at our Discord, and we're not doing enough on our Discord either, and that becomes something that's a little tricky, right? So there's all these areas that we need to get better at, and we're just slowly chipping away at it.
So,
well, can I say it's kind of a simple thing, but where are the TCA Lancers? I remember you used to dish those out in Gears of War 4, right? And I actually thought there was an esports stream. I'm not sure if it wasn't the last event, it was the previous event, where I saw one of the pros using it. Like, he had the Commendation Lancer on him. And I know the bandwidth isn't there, but even given someone who isn't a partner the white Lancer, just to acknowledge, like, hey, we see what you're doing, or something like that, would be great.
Yeah. So it would have been the Mexico City one. The esports players have when they log in, all content is entitled to each machine. So they're not actually logging in on their personal account. So a lot of them, they're all Gears fans. So a lot of them just jump in and will play with characters that they don't have access to. You can remember in Gears 4, like everybody, they couldn't play with the Imago because his butt breaks the rules. But like you would see things like that where they would go and
they'd try to find that exclusive thing to use.
Yeah, and because they're fans. Like a lot of them didn't have the time to grind back when I concepted out the Diamond and the Ruby Scions, which I loved, and I think those were really fun, and I think those were great like chase characters before we had operations and stuff like that. And a lot of them didn't have that, so they would go and be like, "Oh, I want to play with the Diamond character because I don't have that," and they wanted to show it off.
So let me just ask: is there anything that the community can do to once again help with the bandwidth issue, where you're having people that are not? Well, let me back this up first. Sorry. In terms of the current partners, is there any way to relook at the requirements to see if there's additional people that should be qualifying for that once that journey gets started? Because right now, looking at those requirements, they're pretty hefty. One, to make it in, and two, you don't know if you're going to make it in. And then
no.
In terms of the bandwidth,
so I've actually just basically pressed pause on the partner program. There are people that are partners right now that shouldn't be partners, and there's people right now that should be partners that haven't been added to the game. And I have made the deliberate decision to not change it right now because I recognize there is a lot going on with the TCA program, and if I were to go and index into one, like I don't want to look at it, like I don't want to start mucking with it until I can actually start mucking with it, like fulsome. And I feel like hearing the criticisms of we're only catering to the top and not supporting the bottom, I want to make sure that we're supporting the bottom with assets and stuff like that, as well as supporting that. And then in that scenario, we're going to go through, and some people are going to be removed and some people are going to be added. I was just telling the partners earlier that there's a couple of analytics tools that we have access to that I'm no longer just basically defaulting by followers. I'm no longer defaulting like that. Like to me, if you have 100,000 followers or subscribers on YouTube, but your video only ever generates 700 views, you're not really leveraging those subscribers really efficiently. But if you had 5,000 subscribers and you were getting like 10,000 views, like that's amazing. So not only are you appealing to your subscriber base, you're actually making content that is outside of your subscriber base. And I want to reward. Like I want to work with people that are like moving the needle at that level. So, and then same thing with like Twitch, right? Like I can, like, it's all well and good. And I want to move away from Twitch in the world of subscribers and followers. I want to go into like average view time. So we're going to sit down and we're going to pick an average number of like, oh, cool. Like and we're going to put this on the website. Like here are the metrics at which I'm going to judge, because I'm going to need to go and have some hard conversations and be like, Pete, I'm sorry, you're just not pulling your weight. You're out of the program. And and Pete, you just had the misfortune of being on this stream. But
that's all right. That's all right.
But you know what I mean? But I want to be able to go and make it defensible. And I want to say like, hey, this is why. And maybe I give a warning. I'm just going to go and say like, this is the deal. Like, this is the metrics. You've got a month to sort of kind of amp up. Because I get it. Like, people go through lulls. Like, Domes took a month off, right? And, he wasn't streaming or whatever it is. That being said, Domes also busted his ass and had 2,000 subscribers at one point and was working really super hard and grinding every day. I want to give people the ability to take some time off because, like, being a content creator is hard. It's fucking a grind. And so I want to make sure that, like, if somebody needs to take a break, they have the ability to take a break. But, like, if you're not doing anything, then I also want to kind of be like, well, what value are you bringing? And be able to have a real conversation with them so that they may be unhappy, but at least they can walk away going, it didn't feel arbitrary.
Yeah. So I think another level beyond the, like, so you have the assets that you guys want to upload, you have the partner program and stuff like that. But then there's the other aspect of just, you guys have been doing a much better job of this recently, but tweeting out or like retweeting fan art, cosplays, stuff like that. Like you guys used to have the Museum of Community Glory, for example, and stuff like that went a really long way.
I love that, and honestly, like it was the best and the worst thing. because it was great to move through, but then it became a grind to find someone that was worth celebrating every week. Like, we burned through a lot of our people.
Yeah, because there's not that many people, so you have to keep recycling the same people over and over
yeah,
again.
and it becomes hard. So like that was one of those things I like the idea of celebrating. Hold on, I'm just responding to Dutch.
Like, even if you didn't do it every week, like, even if you just had the occasional thing.
No,
I think
and I did, and we did that. Like, there was that woman that did that really cool mirror drawing that I retweeted the other day, and there was there's stuff out there, and it's not for lack of a desire. Sometimes, and I said this somewhere. I said this in the forums. There was a bunch of montagers that were like, blah, 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 and I responded to that montager thread. Part of me is hard because I don't know if montaging is still as viable as a YouTube thing as it used to be.
Probably not.
But I don't want to, that's not my... and I don't mean that at the Gears level. I just think, in general, montaging isn't as popular as it once was.
It's not. It's not. It's a dead art form, honestly. And that's not just a Gears problem. That's a YouTube content problem. A lot of that comes down to, music licensing issues, where people can't use the music they want. Like, back in the day, YouTube was just like the Wild West. You could use Avenged Sevenfold or whatever the hell you wanted and throw it on a Gears montage, and that's a part of the reason why they became so iconic. But now that everything's limited to licensed music, they don't have that same feeling. The only way a montage really takes off nowadays, if there's a big name kind of tied to it. If it's just someone making a high quality video, it'll get the attention of the hardcore montage audience. But nowadays, it's not the kind of content people want to watch.
No, I look at Landon's a perfect example. Landon is a high skilled player. He understands video editing. He does all that kind of stuff. And his montage clips are 3, 4, 5, 6,000, maybe 10 at the max. Whereas 5 years ago, those would have been a lot higher.
Yeah.
And I don't think that has been...
So 30,000 and stuff like that. It was...
Yeah, and I don't think that has anything to do with
it's not a Gears thing. It's
not a Gears.
It's a YouTube and content thing, 100%.
Right.
And then the one
thing I did want. The reason why I brought that up is it's not for a desire to not talk about it or to not promote those. Sometimes we just don't see it. My day is super busy, and one of the reasons why we hired Azura was to live in that world and be more present and that kind of stuff. To celebrate and get excited about that. Are we there yet? No, but we want to get better at that. I would love to celebrate clips, and we used to do the clip of the week, and I promise you, every time we would tweet out clip of the week, we would get more comments of that guy sucked than we would get wow, that was really exciting.
That's why Gears clip of the day is gone.
Yeah, when we used to do when I posted that shock clip from the last final where he got the 6 kills in 7 shots, that was an amazing piece of gameplay. And
disable responses on Twitter now.
Yeah, but everyone was like, "Oh, it's all up A's and blah blah blah," and I'm like, I don't understand how you watch that clip and you don't look at that and think, "Wow, that guy actually playing against really high skill players in a very small environment in the back of bunker was able to go and not die and kill 6 people." I don't know how you can look at that and shit on it, but people were shitting all over that clip. And I don't understand.
So I think the last thing about the creators that I think would be a really cool thing to bring back is the weapon skin design contest, the map design contest. You don't even have to promise that this is going to make it into the game. I remember back in the Ep.3 days, there were map design contests, and people loved coming up with their own maps and sketching them out and describing them in detail and stuff. We're making weapon skins, and it's nothing that Epic put in the game. It's just here's contests to get people involved in creating stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at that. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why. I mean, if we want to look at a walk, crawl, one analogy, I think let's kind of get some of the basics on just getting us better at amplifying people, and then we can facilitate into something. Because if we're going to go and do that, I want to kind of really get into an environment of are you submitting on Reddit? Are we let's do something where it feels fulsome, not just me tweeting it randomly.
Don't you have I don't know the proper lingo for this, but don't you have like the license to like take any clip that's Gears of War and put it on the Gears social feeds because it's your game?
For sure.
So so with there was a recent one. I'm sure a lot of people saw it with Halo 3, where a community member called Mint Blitz, he threw a man cannon at the bubble shield and it flew up, and the guy looked at it and was like, "Oh my god, that was hilarious!" That went viral on Reddit, and they just like posted on their own social feed. So I guess kind of maybe just instead of necessarily trying to keep up with like a weekly thing and putting yourself under the pressure of trying to find that content and then not being able to, just keep an eye out for stuff that goes viral here and there and put that on the feeds.
And that's what we're trying to do, and that's kind of where having Azura present and there on a regular basis, that allows us to have that option, because it could just be something as simple as like people are in meetings for a bunch of hours or they're not paying attention, and it doesn't get like it just gets missed, right? Like just for whatever reason, and then or like conversely, like you look at it and then like you also don't want to be too late at the party. Like you don't want something that was going to be amazing 3 days ago and then you're now retweeting it. Like you kind of have to like. There's a timeliness that we need to land it.
Yeah.
To work out.
Yeah, I mean
maybe I'm overthinking it.
Yeah, like that Halo clip I talked about took 3 days to go up on the official Halo feed, but people who didn't see it loved it, and people who did see it were like, "Oh, that's great! The Halo's acknowledging, X content creators."
Yeah. I mean, I'm like honestly like for like I'm putting this out to the community. Like literally, like if you like tag these things with me. Like these are things that like like let us know. Like the easier like share it. We're not always going to be present. Tag on that. Throw it on the Reddit. Like help share it. And if we see it, we're happy to amplify it. Like.
Yeah, I'll even try. I'll try and amplify stuff like that more. I know.
Yeah, no, I mean it's helpful. I mean, I'm not going to amplify your Wolverine picture, but I'm going to amplify it.
Hey, I mean,
you should.
The sniper. I mean, hint is all I'll say.
Hint, yeah. So wait, I want to circle back to. I have 3 rapid fire questions.
Yep.
I think that Dana, you can answer these fairly simplistically.
Okay.
I'm going to start with the YouTube stuff since we're still a little bit on the program and what you guys are highlighting. So because it really falls with you, earlier you mentioned about leveraging, the subscriber count of those in the partner program and those that are partners and everything of the sort. But then you have people just uploading gameplay skin videos. They get 3,000 views with tons of subscribers. Is this something that you or whoever is like, you know what, I love it. This is the type of stuff we want to see. I'll ask that one first since that's the easier one.
You mean like some like?
There's content creators that are just uploading skin videos that are part of, but that provides no value really other than the showcase of skin that you guys are already showcasing anyways. That's not valuable content.
I mean, maybe I can like. I don't know, Pete. Do you want to answer that? Pete may be able to answer that question actually better than I could about the value of that content. Because the value of that content.
What do you feel? Yeah.
I used to personally. I'm kind of going through a shift in what I want to do, because I find that a lot of the partners make very similar videos. So you may have noticed I've taken a break from YouTube recently. I'm upskilling in a load of editing programs and stuff like that, and kind of figuring out what style I want to approach in the future, rather than kind of doing the this new character's out, I'm going to make this single gameplay video on this, and it's the exact same as the other person's video. It's stale, but I still want to promote the content that's given to me in a fashion that's different to what other people are doing. I think the value to Shadows is, for example, is that he's right on it. He does it as quick as he can, and that's,
I didn't mention names
with the traffic.
I didn't mention names.
I did. I'm just. It's a good example. Me and him have made such similar content over the years, and I will just openly say that it's like me and his content being so similar is actually part of the reason why I'm trying to branch out and do different things. But for him, since I think the way he does his content, and I don't want to speak for him since he's not here, but I'm assuming since we did make such similar content in the past, that he's riding the hype of the new content that's come out. So he's making sure that he's taking advantage of SEO, and when people are searching for the new character to come out, that he has that on his channel immediately. And so since that's out there every single week, it's a guaranteed video for him every single Monday. So it's valuable to him in that regard.
And I don't.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah, and then from my perspective is like the value of, I mean, obviously I want people to understand what's in the store. Like I want people to get excited about what's being new added to the game. But, and you know, again, we talked about this earlier with the partners. Like I want to make sure that there is a diversity of content inside of the partners. Like what Ashes and what Summons and Domes do is very different from a content standpoint versus what Shadows or Roar does. Or, and then Witcho is basically like the Latin American Shadows. With, you know, the clickbait and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, that works for him and that's fine. But, like, what? Like, I mean, well, no, I mean, like, what? I mean, I read, like, I'm not an idiot. Like, come on, like, I read it. Like, the thing is, like, he's like
he plays the YouTube game very well.
No, but the thing is, like, he's also treating it like a job. And he's taking it super seriously. And that guy works really, really hard. So, you know what? Like, I don't begrudge someone that, if you treat something like a job and you work hard at it and you find something that works, if the content doesn't work for you, then don't watch the content. Like I mean, this is like, don't hate the player, hate the game. Like honestly, like this is like one of those things that like I like, if people are making content and people are watching it, then somebody likes it. And I got no problems with what Shadows does. He's not like, if it's working for him. Now, like that's just flat out. Like I'm not like. And if Lee was here right now, I would say this right in front of his face. Like I have no problems with that. Sorry, Neon, you had 2 more questions.
Yeah. So then this ties back earlier. I was taking notes, and you said something earlier at the very beginning. I didn't want to hit on it yet, but now I'm going to say it. Is you're talking about, you know, all the new community members that are helping out, and you actually said something, and I don't believe I misheard it, because you mentioned the word or the phrase. I don't know if you remember saying this or if I'm making it up, but
it's probably going to get me in trouble.
You're building this up. Come on, let's hear it.
It's Gears Prime. What's Gears Prime?
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. No, Gears Prime is literally like when I talk about Gears Prime, I talk about it being a main channel. So if we've got esports as like an adjunct channel, and Gears Prime is like our main channel, like Gears Twitter.
At Gears of War. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
like at Gears of War.
Prime is short for primary.
Yeah. When I'm saying Prime, I'm not speaking. It's literally that could just be internal slang. So like, because I'll say something like to our esports team, like, "Oh, you guys lead on that, and we'll retweet on Gears Prime," or we're like, and it's so there is nothing there other than just me talking about primary channels versus adjunct channels.
I think Neon thought
I was really nervous there for a second.
Service was coming out.
Oh God, no,
Prime
no,
or something of the
no,
sort.
No, this is literally just,
Twitch drops.
This is just me. That's just my language. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I want to hear I just have one last question, and you don't have to go too long on it. I'm sorry. When you look at, you said the analytics and everything, and this one would hurt my soul. It hurts my soul knowing that I have to ask it. But when you look at when Gears 5 launched, you had people like Ninja, Dr. Disrespect, and like some of the most popular people on YouTube, Twitch, promoting the game. And honestly, Dr. Disrespect was one of the hardest critics at the time. Was like,
and then he loved it.
And then he loved it, and then he's gone. But, you know, the game for a long time had, you know, when I say a long time, I mean about 2 weeks at most, over 100,000 viewers on Twitch. And then next thing you know, that decline went really hard, and now you're barely consistent, like, you know, getting 1,000 to 3,000 viewers at any given point, roughly, watching. What do you feel is going to take to get the community back to where it can maybe get back up, not 100,000, but
I mean, that was
outside
launch.
of the like esports.
Like that's launch. Launch is a hard one to like. The newness of all that is hard, right? I mean, Gears Tactics was like at 30 to 50,000 when it came out, and that's a total non-streamer friendly game, right? Like that's a single player like turn-based tactics game, but
it did well on Twitch.
Yep, yeah, it was. It's a fun game.
It's a great game. It's just to me and like everyone on the dev team was like, like we were blown away at how well it did, because we had conversations about like, should we make this a Twitch game, and we couldn't figure out a way to make it fun without like adding significant dev components to it. So the fact that it succeeded was really amazing for us. To answer your question, right now our focus is getting the game to be fun, and we've made some bets. We've made some big decisions. around, some would say major decisions. Sorry. For those of you that don't know, that's my gamer tag. So no, we've made some big decisions around how do we go and improve the experience. The ranked one is interesting, right? I think the ranked was a big bet. Is it going to work? I don't know. We heard from a lot of people that they were frustrated with ranked about winning and not being rewarded for the win. The new system rewards you for the win.
And now people are complaining.
And now people are complaining because they feel like maybe that personal performance isn't part of it.
Yeah.
So like that's that balance, and we're going to be looking at it. And we said from the beginning, when this rank comes out, like, is it gonna stay exactly the same as where is it going to end up? I don't know. But the one thing that we are doing is I think, hopefully you guys are picking up on this, is we are vested in acknowledging and tinkering and moving forward. And if something's not working, we are refining and we're adjusting. And we're going to talk about that process as early as we possibly can. It's easier to talk about things that are in progress than things that are like haven't been out yet. Like, you'll notice that Michael was being very cagey around a few answers on the stream yesterday, mostly because some of the designs aren't 100% solidified, and the other part is like we're still a long ways away from Operation 5 starting, so we don't want to have that conversation just yet. Ranked, it's a lot easier for us to talk about that journey, so we can sit down and be like we're going to have some rank point tuning changes that are going to come out when the official season begins. In part of response that about people saying, like the first, like if you're on the winning team, on either team, the person who's in first and the person who's in fifth on the winning or the losing team, the gap sometimes isn't that high. So especially just by virtue of the way the points are, like, we're looking at that. How do we mitigate some of that stuff? Are we going to get it right out of the gate? I don't know, but at the same time, we're not stopping. Like I have a ranked triage call like 3 or 4 times a week, like 9:30. It's like one of the first calls we do, and we look at the numbers of where people are playing and how do we do this and how do we improve the experience and all of that kind of stuff. Like, we are vested in trying to go and iterate on that. And and is it going to work? We hope so. But to answer your question, we're focusing on making the game a great experience. And I believe when the game is a good experience, you're going to have people go and want to watch that experience. And I think a good example is Op4 came out. Our player numbers have risen significantly, and they have stayed there. People are really happy with what's going on in Op4 compared to previous situations. The new tuning that is happening, people really like that. We're not ready to roll it out. There's some Nasher work that still needs to be done. There's a bug around that impacts Nasher distance, so we don't want to start tuning with the jib range until we get that bug solved, because, as you guys know, like, there's no point adjusting something if a bug is going to go and make it there. Yeah. And then once that gets resolved, then we're going to go and look at like rolling that out across like all the playlists, or all the versus playlists, I should say.
Yeah.
So like, this is where we are, and this approach, I believe, in terms of communications and design and all of that kind of stuff, is benefiting Gears. And I think in the end, if we're bringing back people that tried Gears 5 and kind of maybe were a little disenchanted by it or whatever it is, and then going down that, I believe in the value of chatter. And I think that as we make a better game and people start talking about being a better game, like, look at Livo. Like, that guy I've never met was super harsh. Like, that guy was a dick. Understandably so, the beginning of when the game came out. And I get it, but he's come around, and he is like now advocating for the game, and that's something that, like, I understand why people are frustrated and why people were toxic. And I'm not calling that guy out, and I mean, I understand why he was frustrated, but he's an example of somebody that progressed from here to here. And I believe, to answer your question, Neon, like, it's going to grow from a viewership in that standpoint when people are like, you know what? I like the game now. I'm having fun with the game now. I want to play the game now. And then they're telling people that, and they're talking about it. And I think that is like the best thing that we can do. And then once we get that sorted, then we can look at kind of going and, what are the next steps after that? And really, Operation 4 and Operation 5 are designed to get us to a path where we are where, and I feel like we didn't have a lot of trust, but I'm hoping that people have seen what we've done, are hearing what we're saying, and have a little bit more faith. We have more to go. I get that. But they're seeing that the direction and the trend line that we're doing, and I feel like that that we're moving in the right way. Now, I could be wrong, but that's my perspective.
To Neon's point, though, mentioning names like Dr. Disrespect and people like that, has it crossed the mind of Coalition to do sponsored streams for people like that? And when you have, like, say an operation rolls around that you're like really feeling it, like you think this is going to be a big one, like one that people really want to talk about, hashtag ad streams for Gears 5 with big streamers like that.
Yeah, Microsoft has a policy: we don't pay content creators.
You don't pay content creators at all.
No.
There's never any. Okay.
So when like Dr. Disrespect was streaming that, like I love Dr. Disrespect. Like I don't know what he did to get him kicked off Twitch, but I appreciate.
Nobody knows.
I appreciate. He, to me, is a really exemplary content creator, and that he understands the value of being an entertainer in conjunction with being a really good game player. And I think he is something like, I look at Shroud. Shroud is like, it blows my mind how good he is, but he's not like dynamic watch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, he's like the opposite of Dr. Disrespect, but like they're both super popular. But like,
I watch them both for different.
Exactly. Whereas I go and, as much as like, I wish, like I would love for Nick Merckx to come back and start playing Gears again. I would love for that to happen. And in the end, Microsoft doesn't pay for at that level. So when people play it, we want people to play it because they want to play it. And when they play it, they're having fun.
Okay.
Let's see. Dana, do you have a hard stop coming up soon?
We can go a little bit later. Embry, the Ninja one's a weird one, only because he was part of Mixer. So I don't know specifically around that necessarily, but my understanding was he could play whatever the deal that I understand was he could play whatever he wanted, and this was a scenario where he was like, hey, the game's coming out, and I think he had early access to the campaign or whatever it is, so he was able to go and play it. And the thing is, if you're a gamer of a certain age, like, he grew up in the Halo world, like, you're a Gears fan. Like, you may be a lapsed Gears fan, but I defy any gamer that's probably in their mid-20s that didn't play at least one of the Gears games, because they were so huge at some point.
Yeah. All right. I've got a couple questions that people have submitted here that they submitted early, so I think you've seen these before. One is the Gears 4 craftable things. I got to ask that because I know a lot of people have been looking for that for the achievements. There's a couple weapon skins that were supposed to be made craftable after the
those have been flagged. Those are just on the list.
Okay.
For Gears 4.
So they have not been forgotten.
No. The achievement one is an issue. I get that. It's with the flaming weapon skins or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's been sent through. I don't know where it's on the list. That's the hard thing with things like that is it's the QA time, because if you go through and you've got all these QA lists, I've got to, like, we could make the change tomorrow to make them craftable, but we still have to go and vet it. Like, the change is easy to make. It's the vetting into the QA. So it's on and I poke every once in a while saying, where are we with this? But, it's supporting the current game versus the previous game. So it is something that is on there. It's not high, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah. In the chat, though, can you address that?
Sorry, I don't.
UE on PC.
UE.
Has there been any conversations about, like, where that game is at? It's just kind of like in a limbo at the moment.
I'd have to ask. I'm sure there has been conversations, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Sure.
I know that, like, everybody would love to see all the titles on Steam. I know, Pete, you're passionate about that. It would be, so if we look at Master Chief Collection, that was a separate. The dev team was basically, my understanding was there was two dev teams, right? There's the Halo Infinite dev team, and there's the folks that is responsible for Master Chief Collection, getting it to where it is right now. So, we don't currently in our studio have like a PC-oriented team that would create a Master Chief Collection type experience.
Yeah.
And taking it to PC, not in terms of a aggregate like anthology type experience.
Okay.
That being said, we know that there's a passionate group of PC players, so I can bug Mike Rainer about that. He's the one who oversees it.
I just want to make sure I say this on the stream that like a lot of people, you know, like you said, there is a passionate Gears PC community, but I just feel that you know, Gears games are on PC. Like you have Ultimate Edition, and Gears 1 PC also exists. It was on Games for Windows Live, and it's a full-fledged game that works. It doesn't need servers, but it's just not offered on a place where it can be officially bought at the moment. Like even if that was just somehow brought to Steam, that'd be great. I would love that.
Yeah, the hard part is it's not just as simple as like pressing the take it to Steam
Oh
button.
yeah, of course.
The servers is actually not, because if you think about like all these games are still supported from a server level from an Xbox like platform, right? Like you can still go and play, you know, Gears 2 like online if you wanted to, right? So the servers actually is not the issue. It's the, you know, converting it. There is tech work that I can't even remotely begin to speak to. That if it was something that was easy and simple to do, I'm sure we would do it. But because of that, there is an impact on of just prioritization.
Yeah, I never mean to make it sound simple. I always try and take a step
I know,
back from
and
that. I'm always like, I know it's not easy, but I'm trying to say this thing. Yeah, I know.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I have a ton of questions I want to ask, but in the interest of time, I've just got one more that I want to throw out there.
Oh, I can squeeze another 10, 15 out if you guys want to hammer this out. I'm fine.
Cool.
So
I should check my count.
Earlier this year, you guys had the summit earlier this year, right? So some other studios have had things.
Yeah.
I was gonna say some other studios have had things similar, like Siege, and I think Destiny had one as well. And for those, like all the developers got together and did stuff, and they made this really big deal about them bringing in fans from all different aspects of the game for parts of these summits to get this feedback and sort of create that vision of what do we want to do in the future with the game. So why didn't, or at least it didn't look like the Coalition did that. So why not?
I think it's largely due to the fact that because it was such a significant overhaul, like having that as an internal conversation made it a lot easier. The other part was, you know, Liam and I were involved in this summit, and I'm confident. I'm trying to find the right adjective here. I'm confident that we had a pretty strong understanding of what were the community's priorities, and you know, that's part of our job, is to be able to go and be that advocate. Like the fact that this was a design summit and we were involved in that process, it shows the value that the community has to the, like, inside of the studio, as well as, like, not my team, but like the perspective of you guys. Like we went in there and we were like, and there was times where I was like, that's not going to work. Like we can't do it this way. We have to think of something like this. And because of that, I understand the value of having community folk come in and give their perspective. In this circumstance, it wasn't the right time. To answer Embry's question about, we see esports pros go to the studio all the time. Esports pros have come to the studio twice. Largely, they've come to the studio to understand the mode, to help them from that standpoint, and to get some feedback around the mechanics and things on the specific side. The level of what this summit was focused on, like, I mean, the summit, like, there was multiple things that were discussed at the summit, and then we prioritized out of that. You know, ranked was really high on that priority list because we heard the frustration that people were having with the ranked experience. The store, the inability to earn content was something as part of that, and then you know, the separation of classes versus characters was part of that as well. And all the maps, the role that maps play, all of those things were discussed at the summit, and then the prioritization took that. Now, and the ones that, and we wanted to have them all done at once, but we couldn't. And you know, the maps is a great example of that. Of, like, we knew that maps were a miss. We had flagged, like, I'm not going to get into it, but we had known that maps were something that was a pain point. and and by reprioritizing the resources inside the studio, you're now like, come Op5, you're going to see the dividends of that level of work.
So why is, I mean, I understand why some things are like hidden from the community and we can't see it until it's announced and ready to go. But why is there so much hesitation to announce, like, hey, we are working on this, or we're leaning in this direction on this thing? It's not finalized, and we're not saying that this is definitely happening, but this is something that we're looking at and starting to sort of get fan feedback.
We did that. And we did that. I mean, we did that with the community service, like the quitter mitigation. We did that talking about the separation of classes versus characters. That's part of like the leadership. Like right now, you know, we've worked really, really hard to get the studio to be comfortable to talk about the process, and it's hard, right? Because on one hand, nobody wants to talk about the destination until the destination is certain, right? And that's where the anxiety comes in, because we can say like, oh, I want to go and do X, but if we don't know, we haven't scoped out, we throw that out as an idea, and then all of a sudden people keep coming back to us, when is this coming? When is this coming? When is this coming? But it wasn't really vetted through the production process. So there is no destination. There's an idea, and then and then the other part is you wait until it's done and then you talk about it, which we were guilty of before. Now we're kind of in a sweet spot of where we've identified the destination, and we're confident that the destination is going to make it into the game. The path is not 100% clear, because the nature of development is you have to explore. You have to go, and you have an idea of what that path is, but you're going, and in that in the process of game design, you iterate on something. So, oh, we thought this was going to work, it's not. So we back away and we do something else.
Yeah.
And that right now is our communications approach.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers it in a satisfactory way, but that's where we are.
Yeah, and
at the same time, we want to keep it we do want to keep it a little fresh, because we basically go and tell you everything now. Like I could tell you right now, what are the characters, what are the maps, everything that's coming in Op5, and you guys would be excited for a day.
Yeah, well, that's the type of stuff where it's like, oh, we don't need to know that now. Go ahead and surprise us with that. But one of the more recent ones was ranking system. Like we knew the ranking system was getting an overhaul, but once you guys decided, hey, we're going this route of the points, and we're gonna try and have winning worth more than personal performance. You don't have to say what the split is, but winning's gonna be worth more. There's different aspects of the game that will give you points, things like that. It's like, all right, we knew a ranking system overhaul was coming. That wasn't going to be a surprise to us, and I feel like there's some kinks that you guys are trying to work out with the system now that it could have potentially been easier to work out if some of the information was available beforehand and the community could give ideas about it.
That's so hard. And
I know it's a fine line, but
the depth and the depth of the ranking system, as an example, is the tricky part. Comes down to, because we were still working on it throughout the process and getting the feedback and getting people up to speed on. So if we're ready to talk about it and we want to get your guys' feedback, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, I'm saying this is kind of where we are, and I would actually appreciate your insight on how we could make it work or not. But if we go and we get to something that takes 2 months of design work, that we've done a bunch of exploration and we've learned things, we've gone down a path and then we've backed out and gone down another path, and we've got there and we're in a place that we feel makes a ton of sense because we've made all these learnings as we've moved along. And then we go and we incorporate, let's say, you three guys into the process. We have to then not just ask you what you think now, because a lot of the logical missteps that we would have made are ones that you guys would have made as well, or that you would ask us about. So in some ways, we have to go all the way back to the beginning to explain to you where we are to get feedback that is valuable. So, and I'm not saying that's like a good or a bad thing. It's just if it's like in terms of getting the best, maximizing the feedback that you guys could give is a tricky process, because I mean, there's also like, this is what these people do. Like, these are their jobs. They are game designers. Like they are experts in their field, and sometimes they get it wrong and sometimes they get it right, but they are experts in their field. So you guys are experts in Gears, and you've played a ton of Gears, and you know what works and know what, so there's that balance. The other part, and I see this a lot with Gears, but with other games that have a legacy aspect of it, the knee-jerk reaction is, I want to go back to what I know. I want to go back to where I was, versus I want to go to what's something new. And how do we go and like Steve Jobs has a famous quote around this about that notion of like, I need to know what you want before you know what to ask for. It's not that quote, but it's basically that. Because if we just remake everything from Gears 2, that's great, but like at the same time, people are going to be like, but I want something new at the same time, right? Like, I look at Escape as a good example of that. Escape is something that is very different than anything that's been done in Gears before, and it's tremendously popular. And people that love Escape are like, they love Escape. And I think you need to have that, like, a little bit of, when you ask for community feedback, you get a lot of feedback around two areas. What was done before, or what are other games doing? And and the experts are the people that know how to take those details and then go and take something that was new. Ryan was phenomenal at this. He was really good at this. And, like he was really great at iterating. Like, Escape was his brainchild. Like, he was really good at that. Arcade was a really great attempt at us trying to go and do something a bit different inside of Gears.
I love Arcade.
That probably did. Yeah, you love it, but it's not as popular as we hoped it would be, right? Like but I think it's an example of us challenging and trying something, and you're not always going to get it right.
Do you find that a lot of new players are in Arcade though?
No, it depends. A lot of the where new players go is kind of the path of, they're like water going down a hill. So, no, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's like the way that menu design does really dictates. Like, if I basically hit A, that's the match I'm going to go into. And a lot of people, like, we could go and skew people towards a certain playlist just by putting that playlist first in the order, just by virtue of that. So if we were to move Arcade to the front, like the top slot on the homepage of Versus, we would have a lot of Arcade players.
Yeah, like that was the biggest Gears of War 3 meme, was like, Team Deathmatch was the top playlist, so it was always, the one with 10,000 plus players in it, even way after launch. So, I do notice that the featured playlist, the one that's always like, King of the Nashville right now, is probably getting a load of people in it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of it. I mean, Jote is in the chat right now, so he can correct me if I'm wrong, because he knows about this more than I do. But like, I mean, to your point, it is a mix of like new and old players. But where new players go is a lot of like, if I'm a new player and I don't know about Arcade, I maybe don't seek out Arcade. So I think the job for us is to go and identify what are experiences that we want new players to have, and how do we go and make sure that they have a really good experience. Gears is fucking hard. Like no two ways about it. Like, Gears is a really, really hard shooter. Like, because it's like, it takes everything that you require skill for a shooting game and everything that requires skill for a fighting game. And you have to combine the two, and you have to learn how to move as well as learn how to and know how to shoot. And like, it is, I think the best thing about Gears is because of that. And I think, and I love that about Gears. I love that aspect of it. However, at the same time, that's the tricky part, is you get into this and like we have data, like we have like research that shows like that some people, when they see wall bouncing for the first time, feel like it's a hack. Yeah, they don't understand the mechanic of what a wall bounce is. Yeah,
that's a whole debate. But one thing I would like to applaud though, I still think that Jack is like the best thing that Gears 5 has done for introducing new people, because it just means that they can fly about, not mind their business. They don't have to stress about learning wall bouncing or Nasher mechanics, and they can just get comfortable with the environment and then be like, okay, I think I want to try and start shooting a Lancer now. That's why I would really like to see Jack incorporated into multiplayer, like maybe an escort mode or something like that, where you could designate someone to play as Jack.
The Jotei take a note of that, I guess. But like to me, I mean, accessibility for us was one of our values as we were designing Gears 5, and accessibility doesn't just mean like a colorblind mode. It's setting the game up so people of all skill levels can play it.
Yeah.
You know, my son had a friend over the other day, and they wanted to play. They had two friends over, two sisters, and they're playing, and they wanted to play together. And like Nolan wants to play Halo so he can destroy them, and they can't play co-op Halo because there's only 2-person co-op. So we put in Gears 5, and like they rotated through who was Jack and who was Kate and who was Dal, and they were moving through that way. And the girls who aren't really skilled gamers but they play games were having fun with Jack because they didn't. Like as they were, like you said, as they were learning the mechanics, because they didn't even like just playing Halo. It's not a cover-based shooter, right? So the fact that I'm like, okay, you have to hide in cover, and then
there's a whole nother.
If you run out, you're gonna die,
right?
So like that kind of stuff. So that was one of those ethoses that was part of our design process.
So you mentioned Jonathan Taylor because he was in the chat here, and so I know he's going to be on the developer. The plan is to have him on the developer stream next week to talk about the ranked stuff.
Hopefully, we'll see. We're going to see how it lands, and then we'll if he needs to come on, or if we want to give people a bit longer to play with it, but we'll see. Yeah.
So have you guys looked at having guests on for that as like fan guests? Like you had Domes on, you've had Shadows on, and then you've had developers, but you've never had a developer guest and a fan guest on at the same time. And I think it goes.
I like the idea of that. One of the things that was a deficit with Liam's departure was and COVID was having only one person in the stream room at a time is hard. Liam was good at the game, so he could talk and play at the same time, much like Jim Bob could. It would be really challenging for someone like me to answer questions thoughtfully as well as read the chat and kind of stay engaged. It's really, really hard for one person to do. So and then losing Andy as our stream producer. So we basically lost like a whole skill set kind of went away that we've now got. Thankfully, Sarah actually has a ton of experience with OBS. So and Sarah and Azura are doing a great job at stream producing. And then we've done a nice job of having Jotei and Jim Bob and Michael Shannon, I know, is a very popular guest. So he gets to come on and we get to talk. And when we did Shadows and we did Domes, a lot of that was just at the very beginning as a way for me to have someone to speak with. And and I was honestly like they probably were trying to be good guests and not ask as many questions as I would have hoped they would have asked. But that's something that it's a learning process. So I would be more than keen to have more people on to come on and have guided conversations. I think this has been a really good conversation today because it was an area that I think there's been a little bit of confusion around, like community. Like they know what we do, or they like people kind of think we know what they do, but like getting in there and and we've also nicely skirted a lot of like the same 15-ish questions that we get. Like it's so refreshing to look at the chat and not just see questions about future content.
Yeah.
So
because I think with the whole developer stream thing, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about how the people watching those streams are the fans like us who care about those tiny details and ask these very detailed questions. So I feel like having both a Jonathan Taylor or actually I'll go back to the Michael Shannon one, like because I know Neon Velocity is a PvE person, so having Neon on and Michael on at the same time, there can be a discussion about those fine, like those nitty-gritty details that a lot of the viewers are actually interested in, rather than Neon typing in chat and then it being sort of filtered through you to Michael and then Michael responding. It's sort of that direct conversation.
Yeah, so, part of that, and I've definitely appreciated like what you've been doing on Reddit with those questions and ahead of time, so we can make them a little more fulsome. But I mean, you guys see the chat. Like the chat flies. Like it's really hard to stay inside of that chat. And I'm trying to make it dynamic so it's not just questions pre-recorded, like pre-asked questions, because we want to make it. I want it to feel like a little bit more of a dialogue-oriented thing. And I think we're doing the best that we can. But I think to answer your question, I think, and the hard part is like we've tried to do those like lore detail-oriented questions, and as soon as we bring on somebody that talks about lore, all you guys want to do is ask about questions that we can't talk about. Because you're like, what about this? What happened here? What happened here? What happened here? And we're like, negative space. And it's not that we don't want to talk about that. It's just by giving that answer, you're actually robbing us the ability to go and tell that story in a future game, in a novel, in a comic book. And it's not that we don't sometimes we don't know, and sometimes we don't really want to talk about it. So like the lore ones, I wish were so much. I always have such high hopes for the lore streams, and they always devolve into a scenario where like I actually really like the stream where we had Matt Searcy on, and he played campaign, and he was showing off little things inside of the campaign about like, oh, did you notice you should shoot here and this would knock out the stump, or things like that. To me, like I like that type of like those are the ones that I thought were really cool streams. I want to have a map design, like a level designer on. We're going to have a level designer on for one of the new maps that's coming for Op.5 to talk about that process. Those streams that we did with Garrett are some of my favorite. Like that Foundation map design stream is probably my favorite stream that I've done since I've been at Gears. I want to make them more informative for you guys, and if we go and have people on to kind of like dork out around the details, it's great for those people. But there's also a big chunk of people that like are there that want to talk about movement, or they want to talk about like so. And as much as we try to craft that stream, and you could even see it in the chat yesterday about it was a dedicated PvE stream, but people were still showing up and asking PvP questions, and the chat was like self-policing, going like, "Hey, this is a PvE stream." But even then, like so, like we try our best, but there's like really not much you can do.
I haven't noticed because I watch on live.gearsofwar.com. It doesn't show the title. When you're streaming, does it say just Gears developer stream number this, or does it actually give the subject of what it's about?
I don't know. I'd have to. That's one of those ones I can't speak off the top of my head. I know that. I don't know if Azura does that. I'll ask her. I'll make sure that she does.
I guess if
we haven't done it, I should make sure she does it.
Yeah, I would recommend that.
It just says Gears developer stream -date.
Okay.
That's a failure on our part.
For the campaign and lore type things, I think, like you said, they are really interesting discussions, but the chat always wants to talk about the live stuff. I think just having some short videos, like a 5-minute video or less, like, so you said Marava tweeted out those details about Paddock recently. Just a short little clip of, hey, here's a pre-recorded message about, here's some little tidbits about campaign, or here's all these Anthony and Benjamin skins, here's the details.
Those are, I love all those, and those are great. Those are really hard for us to do right now because of like, it's like someone hopping on a webcam. Like in a normal world, we could have like we never did them before, but it would be even harder for us to do now. But I think those are things that we can look at, and I think, Marava's tweet was great. It actually inspired me to go and have some conversations around him about with him around stuff that's coming up that I should know, or that I should be able to celebrate more, because I love that level, and I'm not surprised, excuse me, that level of detail went into those characters. I just wish it was like shared a little bit more widely, but I was happy to tweet it. Like I was happy to go and tell that story. Right. And the thing is, like, what I like, and to Jess's comment earlier, is that, like, one of the things that I really want our channel to be is, like, because we are fans of the game, and we're trying to show ourselves as fans of the game a little bit more, and when we do it, we get good responses. Like that Mira was great. And the fact that she put like the little tomato in the thing, and we could kind of like joke with that, like all of those things were really, really fun, right? And I think that's the kind of stuff that, like, and when we see it, it's easy. The sad part is this: a lot of that stuff gets posted on the weekend, and I try very hard to like have family time on the weekend. So if I see it when it's in the morning and the kids are having breakfast and stuff like that, then it's easy for me to amplify. But I'm trying to, like, in a COVID world, and I'm sure you guys are the same way, where like you're being on your computer too much and you're all of that kind of stuff. When I'm like not working, I'm trying very hard not to work, just for the work-life balance.
Yeah, I understand.
So, Dana, we're just circling back to something that this has been mentioned on prior streams, and I don't know if there's been follow-up or if it's been forgotten or if it's on pause, but there's been hints, and I believe, I can't remember exact words, so I'm just going to say it's been alluded to that there would be some type of content for COVID that would go towards something around that lines of like, kind of like Johnny Cog, and then also something for Black Lives Matter. Is that still happening, or?
The COVID pack, we had that set up, and I'm just going to tell it like it is. Microsoft's year end is whatever it is, July 30th or June 30th, whatever. I forget which one it is. So we have to have accounting all reconciled by that point. By the time, like, to just do a COVID pack is not like, to do a fundraising pack isn't just something as fast as doing a fundraising pack. So basically where we got was we were so close to the year end that we actually delayed it because it was just going to rush it and it wasn't going to be a great experience. We weren't going to be able to create assets to market it very well. It was just going to be something that wasn't ideal from that standpoint. So we parked it. It may come, we may bring it back. We'd have to look at that and see the best way of doing it. So that's what happened with where it was. The Black Lives Matter, we never committed to doing a pack for that. Obviously, we were very aligned with what Microsoft was doing as a company around the donations that they were being made and really following their guidance. I know Minecraft and Halo did a few things, like Minecraft did a Juneteenth component. Each studio was to their own. And some of that just comes down to what does a studio have the bandwidth to do at a time. And it wasn't a lack of desire. I mean, I think one of the best things about Gears of War is our player base is probably about as diverse as you can get. I love going to these esports events and I look out and I see like just Hispanic people and Black people and white people and Asian people and all of these people that are there, and they're all in the same teams, and they all are bonded by this love of Gears, of people that are from all different parts of the world in different circumstances. And like, I think that's amazing. Like, where would you find a scenario by which like Pete could show up at an esports event and would go and hang out with like a Vexies and people like that, even though they probably have never met, but they know who each other are through their content and could sit down and have a really great experience just by virtue of the fact that they love Gears. And I
met some really cool people at the couple of events that I went to. It was really nice.
So for me, that is honestly, Dutchie, you can fuck off. Honestly, it wouldn't have blown up in people's faces if we went with Black Lives Matter. You can fuck right off. Seriously. Like, that's bullshit. We care about diversity a lot. And all of that stuff, that meant a lot of stuff to our community and that meant to our studio. So, like, that's not accurate at all. And that's not why we didn't do anything.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm going to I will give you kudos for coming up and saying that and calling that out. As someone that's in a racial couple, hearing that means a lot.
That's you know what, like, I'm sorry. Like, I endure a lot, but like when it comes to intolerance, I give zero fucks about that shit. Like, seriously, that's bullshit.
So, well, hold on. So let's move away from that because it's a good point. I don't want to go too much, but there's also a clip that this is going way back in the time machine. January.
Okay, my memory may not go back that far in a real detailed way.
This is Rod, you, and I can't remember the other individual's name right now off the top of my head, but there was a clip where you guys basically made everybody guess of basically future content coming. I know where this might be going.
Oh, I can't talk about anything future. I can't talk about future stuff.
But y'all said let the community guess, and y'all said let the community guess. And so Pete, I don't know if it was this Pete or not. Like, the clip is so old, but the answer was gridlock about future content coming.
Oh yeah, that was
weird. And it was about gridlock. So.
Okay, that's that guy that feels like I owe him an apology. I wasn't like, I don't remember that. So honestly, to me, like, I know I'm pretty good about not revealing content, so I'm not quite sure what's going on.
Yeah, that's why I was like, it's weird.
There was a stream. This was about when Phil Spencer visited the studio before Gears 5 launched, and there was a map that we could just kind of make out what it was, and someone actually lined it up, and it was clearly Gridlock. And I remember on the stream,
it was hard on Gridlock,
yeah, on the stream you answered and said, yeah, it is Gridlock. So like, is that what you're trying to ask, Neon? Like, is that map like exist? I guess.
Was it placeholder? Is it something that does exist? Is it something? I mean, we obviously know that it's been a traditional
content.
thing. So.
In the environment of that, in the environment of that, I don't know, but it's entirely possible that people were testing things out. Like, we have builds that have content that aren't in there, and it could have just been like they know the map, so they're focusing on tuning a board into that scenario, right? I mean, in the end, like, I'll say this much is true. Like, we don't have enough maps in the game, and if we had a map that was ready to go, then it would be in the game.
Sure.
Let's see. I know there's a ton of questions on here. It's too many for me to scroll through. I think we've hit the majority of them, and we've gone a little over the time we were planning on. So I think we're going to start to wrap things up here.
Well, can I ask a closing question then?
Yeah.
Then, like, what if what would you say is, like, what are the current, like, time frames you could give us on stuff where you think that's going to be landing in or around that you know of at the moment?
Give me 1 second. I have to recognize Dutchie. Dutchie, sure. I understand what you said now. I thought you were making a political judgment. Reading your comment, I get why you said what you said now. So there you go.
Sure.
So Pete, you're asking like map builder and stuff like that. Like, are there any general time frames?
like TCA partner, map builder, like anything you could say. Like, what are you thinking of? Is it like by end of year, in the next month, next operation?
So map builder specifically, or like,
just
whatever you think is like kind of on the way that's been kind of talked about, like in the stream or in general.
Very general time frames.
Oh, I
know you want to.
Sure. I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
Okay.
I think right now the team is super focused on Op 5. We're mapping out what are our feature lists for Op 6 in there. So it's something that I don't... Much like me talking about that destination and not talking about something from a destination standpoint, we're not really at that destination, so I don't really feel comfortable giving indications around that just yet.
Sure.
Well, I guess I'll have a closing statement and comment in terms of the map builder. This was actually talked about very good from both of you and Michael, Dan and Michael yesterday during the PvE stream, is that I asked a very specific question about, well, why doesn't TC bring out the map builder to where the community like ourselves can go ahead and make maps for Horde or Escape? Well, we technically can do that in Escape, but not on the 1-to-1 ratio. But it was a good answer, and the answer was, well, if we allow you guys to build it, we may not have the quality control of it because the spawns could be out of whack. You know, there could be sentinels flying through the walls, there could be stuck under the map, types of things like that. So for those that missed it, there's an answer of one reason why you can't use the map builder if it was to be released in Horde, for example, which I didn't think about. I thought it would be put it together, figure it out, and it'll kind of come to bat, which I was hoping it would. But secondly is the question that I would have is, would you be open to doing more of these in the future with all of us? Again, to just, say, you know what, here's what we talked about last time. In a few months' time, can we follow up? Would you do it again?
You mean in terms of like the map builder specifically? I'm not quite sure.
No, in terms of having a conversation with us or other individuals on Tac-Com.
Oh, on this stream here? Oh, yeah, I'd come back on here again. I'll tell you right now, I thought it was going to be a lot more like hostile.
We're professional.
So, and it's good. I mean, I think having, I know, Chaps, you've asked about whether having like Michael Shannon or Jote and stuff like that on. I think we would probably want to come on as a bit of a group. Not that I don't think they can handle themselves, but I just want to be there to kind of help support anyway. So it would probably be like a 2 TC and a 2 Tac-Com. It would be the way that I could see it happening.
Okay. All right.
At least for the first one, just because,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I know that they can get into the details and stuff like that, but like, I just want to, like, like, especially someone like Michael, who I love and is so enthusiastic,
Gets very excited,
and can't wait to, like, he loves what he does, loves what he's working on, and you can see me having to temper him a little bit, like on yesterday's stream, and not in a bad way. And I just like, so I just want to make sure that, like, we're not, like, getting ourselves into trouble or anything.
Yeah. All right. I think we're gonna call it there and wrap it up. So
a nice brisk 2 hours and 22 minutes.
yeah, that's a pretty long stream. So
no, this was fun. Thank you for organizing this. I hope it was valuable for you guys.
yeah, thanks for joining us. Hopefully, we might do another community-based one in the future. Who knows? But yeah, we've got plenty of other topics. I've got a huge list of topics that people want to talk about, and I can't do a stream like every day. So hopefully, this will be going on for a while.
Have Chaps on as the next guest, Dana, so you can bring that list with him.
Maybe. I think for me, like, these streams, like, I know how much these streams, like, everyone thinks these streams are just something that happen, and I appreciate what you guys do. Like, they are a ton of work to set up. Like, you got to manage it, like, not just like the act of doing it, but just getting people organized and scheduled, and like, it's like that week of pre-op 4 when we had like a stream every day, and like those blogs, like, that was like my full-time job, was just getting all of that stuff, and like me and my team's full-time job. Like, there is a lot of work. So for you guys doing this, I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's why I stopped doing them a while back. Is because I used to do these pretty regularly and then stopped, and it's a lot of work to. Especially, like, none of us work together at the same job. Our schedules are all different. We're in different... Pete's in a completely different time zone. Like, yeah, it's a lot of work. But I'm glad we were able to get you guys all on. I will have links for Pete and Neon, and I guess, Dana, you're not on YouTube and Twitch, but I'll have your Twitter link down below for anyone who's watching this on YouTube.
Follow me on Twitter. Yeah, I mean, I do... I will say this much is true. I do stealth go to a lot of streams. Yeah. So I pop by and I watch a lot of people, and I answer. I'll jump in. I'll ask questions. Sometimes I don't say anything. Sometimes I do. So I jump around because I like to see what people are doing and what people are talking about. So whenever I can, I usually have Twitch open, and I'm moving around down that path. So.
All right. Well. Okay.
And I do want to like Dutchy's still upset, and I apologize for getting angry. I did think you were saying that Black Lives Matter would upset a lot of people, and I thought that was your own perspective. I did not realize that you were speaking as a whole, that the community would be upset. That being said, even if the community did get upset, it's not something that's something that it's really easy for us to defend. Why a decision that we made around that path. So there you go. Just because there's a giant chat thread, and I want to just make sure that, like, I did go a little harsh because I thought there was like a blatant display of intolerance, and I don't like that shit. So anyway, cool.
Right.
Other than that, so that's kind of a weird note to end on.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah, but
I did.
It's something that had to be done.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just leave it there. So I don't know what the next discussion of the developer stream is. I have to figure out in terms of what you guys. I know that I do think
system, hopefully.
Sorry,
ranking system.
I mean, I'm assuming that's going to be the big one because that's going to be the next big news inside of the game.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of. So right now, the current plan of record is, assuming everything works well with assuming it goes through CERT, everything is fine. We'll have patch notes out on Monday, and then everything goes live on Tuesday. The two things that people are asking about, obviously running scared is going to be fixed. We're also reverting the button sticky cover, rolling off of cover thing. So that should help make it feel a little more smooth that way. So
awesome.
So I have the patch notes are going to go out on patch notes are going to go out on Monday. Like I said, assuming everything's fine, and then and inside of that. So that's kind of where we are.
All right.
Well, thanks everybody.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And then
yes.
hopefully, and then Trello should be launching next week as well. And then,
Yeah.
and then the TCA folder's next. I promise, Neon and Jen.
Brilliant. I cannot wait.
We all
right.
love it.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate everyone watching the stream, and I appreciate you guys for hosting the stream.
Yep, thanks. And thanks to anyone watching the stream, and also you guys on YouTube, whoever's watching the video on demand. I'll have that up tomorrow. So
Drop a like and subscribe.
yeah,
Right,
like and
bye.
subscribe. Go to Peach channel, find a random video, like and subscribe. Go to Neon's video, find a random video, like and subscribe. All right, we'll catch you guys later. See ya.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Peace.